Fellow motorist, weight loss center salesperson Danielle Caruso for ramming her Nissan Sentra in a fit of road rage. Danielle says it was Marquita who hit her.
Yeah, this is case number 87 on the calendar in the matter of Wilcox versus Caruso. And look, we have visual aids.
Visual aids?
Visual aids.
Would you tell everybody to sit down, please?
Oh, yeah, have a seat. Thanks for reminding me.
Officer Byrd, we have a case here of two young ladies involved in a case of road rage. You don't have anything to do with this case other than you own this car that she was driving.
And my father.
But you don't know anything about it?
No, nothing.
So you can sit behind the visual aid over there.
Sure.
Usually we have guys involved in road rage. You know, they get all those hormones and stuff they have all juiced up. Anyway, Ms. Wilcox, it is your claim that the defendant in an act of road rage caused an accident which caused your car to be damaged.
Yeah.
She says that you were the one responsible for this unfortunate incident that happened on the highway, or were it not for your actions, the accident would not have taken place. So first, why don't you tell me when this incident happened and where you were going?
On the morning of February 12th, 2004, I was on my way to work.
What time?
At about 9:20, between 9:20 and 9:30.
What time do you do at work?
10 o'clock.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a paralegal.
What kind of car were you driving?
A Nissan Sentra.
What year?
2002.
And you have a current valid driver's license and did at the time of the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me what happened.
On the morning of February 12th, I was on my way to work. I was traveling southbound on Nob Hill Road, which Nob Hill Road, if you enter the left lane, it turns onto the expressway, which is State Road 84. We consider it to be I-595.
Which is your car?
I'm number 2. Mrs. Knight was number 1. As we entered on the expressway, I proceeded over into the center lane. As this lane ends, if you stay in this lane, you'll end up getting back off the expressway. Ms. Knight was upset that as we went to get on the expressway, I entered in front of her to get on the expressway. She was behind me yelling obscenities, acting like she was going to bump the back of my car.
So maybe you cut her off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, absolutely. Shh. Maybe you cut her off?
Yes.
And she was angry?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We entered on the expressway. I proceeded into the center lane. Mrs. Knight came around me from the center lane to make her way into the third lane, where she hit that vehicle, knocked her into the median. She then came around me. As she came around me, she gave me her middle finger, as to say, you know, what the middle finger means. She came around me. She then bumped the front of me to cut me off and knock me out of my lane. She knocked my car spun out of control over here, and then back over here where I landed into the path of the first car that she knocked out, which is vehicle 3. She continued east on State Road 84, where 2 cars had to follow her to bring her back.
Not your car?
No. I was knocked off into the median. As she came back yelling, she came back cursing.
Okay, stop. Go pick it up in a second.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, Your Honor. Actually, there's no way possible that I could have proceeded 3 lanes over, because at 9:30 in the morning on 595, it's a major highway.
No, don't tell me what's impossible.
I have a picture here
just
to show you. Okay, so the accurate is, she was in front of me, like she said. I'm here, smashing her brakes on, flicking me off as I waved and killed her with kindness, because my mom always taught me, you kill people with kindness. Don't feed into them. So I didn't. I tried to get over another lane and just chose right here. She got in front of me again, smashing on her brakes on a major highway, flicking me off as I'm laughing at her, because it was kind of comical to me. I was on my way to work as well. I did get over into the third lane because we still had the on-ramp lane. And as I did, I passed her. And when I passed her, I looked right at her and said, yeah, baby, you ain't in front of me anymore. I enjoyed that because you know what? She can't smash her brakes in front of me anymore. So I'm not going to rear-end someone and be at fault. So I proceeded to pass her. As I proceeded to pass her, she sped up and tried to cut in front of me. She couldn't, because my car had a little more power, I had a Ford Taurus, and it did pass her. As I passed her, she tried to push me into this lane. I couldn't go because there was a BMW truck. I did not hit that BMW truck. It is not in the accident report. That BMW truck had to go into the side of the highway here to avoid me hitting her, because it was a near miss, like it says right here. At that point, I decided to stay in this lane. That's when she continued to come in this lane, swiped the back end of my car here, which, due to her, driving ability, spun her out into a NASCAR scene, which spun her out uncontrollable until she sideswiped the front end of the BMW truck, which ended them both up, her in the middle median grass area. I had no choice, because there was so much traffic still by us, to exit off, stop and call 911, which I did, and it's in the 911 report. At that point, by the time you exit, go through a shopping center, and get back on the highway, it takes a couple minutes. I then got back on the highway this way, met at the accident in the median, and her hands were going all up in the air, how I was wrong. Like I said, my mom told me to
May
kill
I
him
see
with
the police report, please?
I have the police report right here.
I'd like to see it.
And, Your Honor, she did hit the first car.
Just a second. Did you speak to the police
Yes, I
officer?
did.
And you spoke to the police
Yes.
officer. Did the driver of the BMW speak to the police
Yes,
officer?
they spoke to each of us separately.
Okay, that's what it suggests here. Now, after the police officer questioned the plaintiff and the driver of the BMW, you were issued a citation for careless driving. And I'm going to quote what the police officer wrote in the police report, which says exactly what she says happened. That you were driving fast. It said that vehicle number 3 was traveling on the inside lane, that vehicle number 3 was knocked off the road because of your driving, that you went
No
over
contact.
from one lane all the way over to the other lane. That's not the way we drive.
Excuse me, Your Honor. That vehicle that is the witness of vehicle number 3 did not, they were on the highway prior to us entering the highway, so she did not see the reason why I was driving accurate exactly.
I don't know
like
what
that.
she saw or not. All I know is you came onto the highway and you proceeded, because your car, according to this, was going faster than her car, to go all the way over into the far left lane. That's what this says you were doing. You were in a big hurry.
To avoid someone from smashing
Yes,
their
she
brakes
was.
on.
I don't, madam, I do not believe you. I do not believe that this woman got in front of you and then smashed her brakes on so that you would hit her in the rear. She doesn't look like a psychotic to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says, fellow motorist Danielle Caruso rammed her Nissan Sentra in a fit of road rage. Danielle says Marquita was trying to cause an accident.
Let me see your damages, please.
This is my damage. This is the estimate from her insurance company, and this is my pictures of my car as well.
It's clear that she hit your car.
Yes, ma'am. 2 witnesses had to bring her back, and they both came back to the scene to let the police know that they
That's not
wanted to make
accurate.
sure that she was coming back.
Okay, the objective things that I have are a police report which is totally consistent with the plaintiff's story. I have pictures which clearly indicate to me that something hit her car, not that her car hit something else, which is totally consistent with this version of events. And I have a story that suggests to me that you were traveling too fast, that you wanted to get over into the fast lane. And not only did you almost cause an accident with another car, because you were going fast enough, and according to you, that road is very heavily traveled.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you could not possibly have gone from the far right lane to the far left lane.
Especially
But you
at high
did.
speed. I did.
But you did, because you cut off the BMW.
The BMW collided
All
with her
right.
car.
All right. You lost your temper. You acted like a fool, and you shouldn't have.
I waved at her and smiled.
You acted like a fool. Did you have insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was your deductible?
It's $500.
Okay. So you're really looking for the $500 deductible.
Well, no, because in the state of Florida, we're not required to carry comp and collision. At the time, I did not carry comp and collision.
You did not?
No, ma'am.
Why didn't you carry collision?
At the time, it wasn't on my policy. I had a policy under my mother, and at the time, it just wasn't. We did not know.
Is the car fully paid for?
No, ma'am.
Well, if it's not fully paid for, you have to carry collision.
Yes, you do. In the state of Florida, it is required.
Just a second. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't have a car that's fully paid for, you are required to carry collision insurance. So you're going to send to me a copy of your insurance policy that was in existence on the car at the time of this accident in February. Now, did you have your car fixed?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I just haven't had it to pay for it yet. I'm still paying the car note. I just haven't had it to pay the damages.
Okay, this is what we're going to do, Miss Wilcox. I believe that the defendant is responsible for your damage to your car. And either your out-of-pocket expenses are $500,
Yes, ma'am.
or they are $4,300. And I'm going to defer that judgment until you furnish me with the insurance policy that was in effect in February of 2004 when this accident happened. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I did not hit her car. That's why my car had no damage.
She had a white car. My car is blue. I had white paint on my car. So how would she not have damage?
Miss Wilcox's hands were all up in the air, freaking out, yelling in road rage.
Mrs. Knight was totally upset that I got in front of her.
I just laughed and killed her with kindness.
She gave me the finger. She came back yelling.
I'm glad it's over with and done and taken care of.
Oh, God, it's just a lesson learned. I know there are crazy people out on the world that don't need to be driving, and I'm happy that justice was served today.
Worker Christine Barros is suing her former friend, research supervisor Nicole Duquette, for the unauthorized use of a cash card. Nicole is countersuing for harassment.
Yeah, this is case number 106 on the calendar, the matter of Barrios versus Duquette. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Barrios, Miss Duquette used to be a very dear friend of yours.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she stole $600 from you.
Yes.
She says she did not. She is counterclaiming because she said since this incident you've embarked upon a course of harassing her, and she is counterclaiming for several $1,000s. So why don't you tell me the circumstances surrounding her taking your money?
It was April 1st. It was about 8:30. I was downtown running some errands.
8:30 in the morning?
In the morning. I had withdrawn $160, $100 which I owed to the defendant. She called me and asked me what I was doing for the day. I said running errands. Why? She said she really needed to see me. She wanted to talk. She needed to escape. And I said, well, you can come pick me up. She came and picked me up in front of the Greyhound station downtown Sacramento, and we got in the car.
In her car?
In her car.
Had you planned on seeing her?
I had planned on seeing her at some point.
Okay, and that's when you were going to give her the money?
Yeah.
What did you borrow the money for?
It wasn't even a matter of me borrowing. It was for gas, her taking me places, and her.
Because you don't have a car.
I don't have a car. She takes me places. She was a very helpful friend.
Oh, fine. So now she came down. She picked you up at the Greyhound station. What happened?
She said she needed to run some errands. Immediately, as soon as I got into the car, I handed her the $100. Immediately.
So far, is that right?
No.
She didn't give you the $100.
No, she didn't.
Okay. Go ahead.
We went to Kmart. She needed to run some errands. She needed some cotton balls, some lotion, some shampoo. When we got that, we called her friend, who happens to be here, went and saw him for a few minutes, went to lunch in Fair Oaks, down by the river, sat there for a little while, spoke some more, got back in the car, dropped off her friend.
Which friend?
That would be Franklin.
It would be you. Okay.
Dropped him off, and she kept asking me if there was anything I needed to do before I went home. And I said, well, I do have to stop at the bank and get the money to pay my phone bill. At a certain point, she allowed me...
Why didn't you take out that money when you went earlier that day?
Because I have a tendency to take money and spend it when I don't need to. So I only take the money out when needed. And the money that I had taken out that morning, I had spent the majority of it, so I didn't have enough to cover for my phone bill.
Okay, so you were going back to the bank?
Yep, we were headed back to the bank.
And Ms. Duquette took you back to the bank?
Actually, I was driving her car. She wasn't feeling very well. She allowed me to drive, knowing I don't
you
have
were
a license.
driving, you drove back to your bank?
Yes. When I proceeded to take off my seatbelt to go and take out the money, she said, no, I'll go do it. You're driving today, so I'll take it out for you. Not a problem.
Okay, just a second. So what did you do? You gave her your PIN number?
She's had my PIN number. She's had my PIN number because the card is used for cash aid and food stamp aid, and she would, on certain occasions, take my oldest daughter to the supermarket, and they'd use my PIN to get food with food stamps.
So she had your PIN number?
Mm-hmm.
And she went to the bank and withdrew some money?
Yes.
How much did you tell her to withdraw?
The $60 from my phone.
And she came back and gave you?
A receipt for $60. And we got in the car. I drove to pay my phone bill, and there we switched. She got into the driver's seat. I got into the passenger side. She asked me if there was anything else I needed to do. I said, no, not really. She said, well, I got to go home.
When did you ascertain that more money was taken out of the...
The following morning, Your Honor. I get my cash aid on the 1st, and I get my food stamp aid on the 2nd. And it was the last of the month, so I needed to see if we had the food stamps were in the account so I can go buy some groceries before I went out of this errand. And it gives you the cash account balance and the food stamp balance at the same time. My cash account balance came up to $39.12. And now my heart stopped and it froze immediately. That was like 7:45 the following morning, April 2nd.
Okay, so that's the money. That $600 is what you say Ms. Duquette took from your account.
Absolutely.
Without your approval. I never gave it to you. And Ms. Duquette says, of course, that she took out that money and handed it all to you. Okay. Can I see the receipt from the bank, please?
You want to see it all right now, or
Just I want to see that day,
Okay.
April 1st. Anna, do you have the receipt that she gave you for $60?
No, I don't. I'd like to make a note. You see that there's three transactions, 60, 0, and 600. The one for 0, she had tried to withdraw $700.
Doesn't say that here. Well, it's certainly clear that on the 1st of April, there was one withdrawal for $60, and then there was another attempt to withdraw some money, and then there was a third attempt successfully within a minute, and $600 was taken out. Okay. Now I'll hear you.
On that morning, I did pick her up. What happened was she owed me $50. She gave me $100 out of the $660 that I withdrew. That day, I had not known her ATM PIN code. Whenever I took her kids to the store, they had cash. I never knew the PIN number. She gave it to me that morning. I pulled the money out. I gave her the money when I got in the car.
Okay. So you acknowledge that you took out the money,
Yes.
and it is your claim that you gave her the money.
Yes, I did.
Could you explain to me why there were 3 separate attempts to take out money?
Because she originally wanted me to pull out $700.
Yes.
So I took the 60 out. She wanted to keep her transactions separate. She said make 2 transactions because she always lost money. That day she had just lost her ATM card. I had to take her back to the bank because she left it in the ATM machine.
I still don't understand, Ms. Duquette, why if she asked you to take out $700, you withdrew 60, and then a minute later you tried to withdraw another amount of money, and then a minute later you withdrew $600. Shh.
That money was not an issue because she gave me money all the time.
Oh, no, listen, you're
All
not listening to me, madam. You just testified that she wanted you to take out $700.
Yes.
Why didn't you take out the $700?
She wanted me to take out 60 separate, 700 separate. It would not let me take out 700. That is why I end up taking out 600.
So what kind of a discussion did you have when you got back into the car?
She counted her money. She gave me $100. We went to the store, drove around for a little while, and I took her home.
Just a second. And that's all that happened?
Yes.
You mean she didn't say to you, I asked you to take out $700, and you said to her, I tried to take out $700, but I couldn't because the bank wouldn't let me take out the $700?
Well, as soon as I got in the car and I handed her her money and her receipts, I said it wouldn't let me take out $600.
Well, you
so
left
this is
that
what you
out.
got.
Ms. Duquette, you left that out, madam. We're in a courtroom situation. I have to decide which of you 2 ladies is telling me the truth. Whether Miss Berrios, who missing a few screws by giving somebody their PIN number. I wouldn't give my kid one of my PIN numbers. For sure I wouldn't give one of my kids my PIN number. You have children?
Oh, you know I do.
Anybody ever get your PIN number?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Former friend Nicole Duquette stole money from her bank account. Nicole is denying the charge.
Now, I read your complaint very carefully. You confronted her about this
Yes,
the
I
next
did.
day. Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened when you confronted her, Berrios.
Okay, that morning I called to see if my food stamps were available.
You told me all of that.
Okay.
You got that. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't catch your breath. You were overwhelmed. You realized that you had $30 left in your account and the other money was gone and you didn't have it.
Absolutely.
So you picked up the phone and you called her.
I picked up the phone at 9:30 and called her. And I said, Nicole, tell me that you took out the money because you were afraid that I was going to spend it for the rent. In that case, I can just go pick it up, put it in a money order, and come pay my rent. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean, what am I talking about? You took out money yesterday that you weren't supposed to, and I'm hoping and praying that it was for that purpose only, because she's always been a good friend. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Shh. I'm going to get to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So she got on the phone, I asked her, after I said, no, I have the proof. You made 3 transactions at the bank while I was sitting in the car in the driver's seat. I've already got the times, the amounts. I need to know where my money is. That's my rent money.
And
she
she
said, oh, well, you know, I thought I'd have it back to you by tonight. I said, well, do you mind? I said, do you mind if I know what you took the money for? I mean, that's none of your business. And I said,
That's not true.
I said, well, Nicole, what's going to happen? She goes, I'm going to have the money for you before you have to pay the rent. I said, Nicole, it's the 2nd of the month. My rent is due on the 5th. It's $832. You just took 3/4 of my rent money.
So what happened?
She said, I'll call you later. I'm at work. Did not hear from her that afternoon. Called once. They told me she had left early. I don't call her home phone because of her companion, her partner. Don't want any trouble. That Monday, I called her at work. I didn't get to speak to her until later on that afternoon. And all she said, I got to go, I got to go. The next day, which is Tuesday, she left me a voicemail, which has since erased. It said, I'm at my friend's house. He's going to loan me $1,000 so I can give you your money. I'll be at the house.
Listen to me. Voicemails shouldn't get erased if they acknowledge a debt.
I know. I didn't know. I
Then don't repeat it. So then listen to me. Don't repeat it to me.
Okay. Well, that afternoon she says, well, my friend didn't come through for me. I'm going to see if I can go sell my car rims.
Okay. And is what you're telling me that these conversations never took place?
Never.
Okay. Now, let's get to your allegation of harassment. When did the harassment start, Mr.
On
Kemp?
April 8th.
What
the day
happened
of my girlfriend's mother's memorial, she called my house acting like she was a private detective.
Okay.
It was a man that called, which sounded like a young man, according to her, who answered the phone.
So you didn't take this conversation?
No.
Somebody else did. Step up. Tell me your name.
Esther Henry?
All right, Miss Henry, you took a telephone call on the 8th of April.
Yes, I took several telephone calls.
Did you make any phone calls April 8th?
Nope, not to her house phone. Absolutely not.
Okay. Did you know who had made those phone calls?
At first I didn't. It was the day of my mom's memorial.
Okay, so you don't know who did.
At first.
Just for my own information, what did the person say?
Okay, on the first call, it was a younger voice, but kind of disguised, and he said, I'm detective from the police department. Is Nicole here? So I'm like, no, she's not here. Can I take a message? And he said no, and then he hung up. Then he called back. Different voice this time. And in the background is F this, F that. Is Nicole there? Is Nicole there? No, she's not. Then a lot of harassment, cussing on the phone. You better get her. She's in for it, you know, and all this stuff. And
What was it? Just a second. What do you think that was about, Miss Henry?
I don't have a clue.
Okay. Anything else you have to testify to?
Yes. Then the third call, the plaintiff outright said who she was.
Yes.
This is Christina.
Yes.
Is Nicole there? And I said no. Well, she owes me some money, and I want my money. She told me she was going to pay me back. She didn't pay me back yet, and I want my money. If she doesn't give me my money, then I'm going to call the police. And I'm like, okay, well, can I take a message down and, you know, tell her?
What was the message? Just as what part of what she said didn't you understand?
A
Listen
number.
to me. That was the message. She said it's the 8th of April. She's supposed to pay me back some money. If she doesn't pay me back the money, I'm going to the police. That's what she said.
Yes.
So you understood the message.
When I say message, I'm like a phone number so she can call you back. I got that part of the message.
I got it too.
I did.
Anything else you want to tell me?
No, that was
Good.
about
Perfect. Sit down.
I even have an email here from her. This is not the first time that this has happened. I've known her since 2001. She worked at my job.
Okay.
She was trying to have a relationship with me, and that was her way of trying to get me by giving me money all the time.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So, Ms. Duquette, listen to me very carefully. Is what you're saying to me that she was trying to endear herself to you by being generous with you with money?
In fact, she even offered.
Speak
Yes.
to me, right?
Yes.
And that in the past you had, in fact, taken money from her. In the past you had taken money from her. Did she ever complain about it?
No, because I always
Shut
did
up
something
just a
for
second.
her.
After somebody had been generous with you, given you money in the past, why she would say that you stole the money this time? Unless maybe she's having a psychotic attack. Is that right?
Well, she was on medication.
Oh, okay. I don't buy it, Mr. Kent. I think you took the money and you thought maybe you could get it back to her, or you thought this is somebody who really had a thing for you and you would get away with it. You took the money out of her account and you did not give it to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all. Your counterclaim's
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm excited because she was trying to come in here with an ammunition of false information.
A lot of the reasons why I got money from her was because I did favors for her.
I trusted her.
Now all of a sudden she's a scorned woman because she wanted something that she couldn't have.
She bonded with all 4 of my children, and she's nothing but a liar.
I helped her get a backbone.
She always said, you know what? Be a woman about yourself. Being a woman about myself now, aren't I?
Convenience store clerk Jennifer Chadwick is suing 18-year-old student Adam Brewer for causing false charges to be brought against her for selling alcohol to a minor. Adam is countersuing, claiming Jennifer caused him to be arrested.
This is case number 426 on the calendar in the matter of Chadwick versus Brewer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Is this your son? Yes. And this?
This is my friend Jessica, my coworker.
Oh. How old are you, Mr. Brewer?
18.
I gather you went camping for an evening?
Yes.
Who did you go with?
My friend Caitlin.
Just the two of you went camping?
No, we met more friends there.
How many more friends?
6 to 10.
So you were going to have a party?
Yes, basically.
At the campsite?
Yes.
And this is a private campsite?
No.
You have to pay to get in?
Yes.
Who do you pay?
At the front gate.
You drove your car?
No, I got dropped off and I was meeting Caitlin there.
Your Honor, he wasn't even allowed to be at the campground.
You got dropped off by whom?
One of my friends, Joseph.
And where were you going to be sleeping?
On Caitlin's site.
Did you pay?
Yes, you have to pay a $5 per person on each site. I paid Caitlin's father, but he never got to the campsite in time.
Do you have the ability to pay at the gate when you come in?
Yes.
That's all I wanted to know. Mr. Brewer, so let me understand this. You have the ability when you walk into the gate to pay the person at the gate. Instead, you chose to give the $5 to somebody else. Is this what you're telling me? I just want to know what you're telling me.
You need permission from the person that has their name on the site first. So I had to go in and make sure I had permission first.
He's a fast thinker. Watch. He actually, at age 18, thinks that he's smarter than I am. You ultimately got arrested or taken into custody, didn't you, for not paying? Isn't that right?
No.
Really? You were taken into custody for something, Mr. Brewer. You want to explain it to me?
Illegal possession of alcohol by a minor.
No. You were stopped for something else.
I was stopped for trespassing.
Right!
But I wasn't taken into custody.
Listen to me. Mr. Brewer, do you think you're smarter than I am?
No, Your Honor.
On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day when I'm sleeping. I guarantee you, sir, when I ask you a question, if I don't get a straight answer from you, not a convoluted one, not one that's tiptoeing around the truth, I'm going to wipe up the floor with you. Do we understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. You understand me?
Yes.
Good. You don't mind that, do you?
Mm-mm.
Good. Now, after you were there, and according to you, gave Caitlin's father this $5, and Caitlin's father, being the irresponsible person that he is, never turned in your $5, so you got stopped for trespassing. I said that all in one breath.
Amazing.
You got thirsty, and you needed some cigarettes, right?
Yep.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sorry. Yes, Your Honor.
So you went to the store where Miss Chadwick worked?
Yes.
What happened when Mr. Brewer came into your store, Miss Chadwick?
Mr. Brewer walked in the store, he went to the cooler and grabbed a soda. He then proceeded to come up to the desk, the counter, and asked me how much the six-pack was. He doesn't look old enough to buy alcohol. I automatically assumed he meant soda, so I told him $2.69 for the six-pack of soda, and I rang him up for it, and I put this one soda in a bag, and I gave him a bag to get the rest of the soda. And that was the last that I saw of him, because I'd have no vision of the cooler where I'm working.
That's not true.
What about the cigarettes?
I do not recall selling him cigarettes. I really don't.
I have the police report that says it does.
Shh. Don't interrupt. I don't like to be interrupted. And then, according to you, you were served with a summons for selling alcohol to a minor.
Yes.
You had legal fees, other fees, and that's the basis of your lawsuit.
Right.
That he sort of tricked you.
Correct.
Into selling him the alcohol. And then when he came outside, was that when you were stopped for trespassing?
Yes.
And what happened when you were stopped for trespassing?
He escorted me to the store again, and I talked to the manager, which was also one of the co-owners. She told him to escort me out front and let me go.
Co-owners of what?
The campground, Lake Pembroke Creek Campground.
I thought you said it wasn't a private campground.
It's not, but somebody has to own it.
Do you attend school, Mr. Brewer?
Yes.
What school do you attend?
Boothbay Region High School.
When do you anticipate graduating?
This year, in June.
Perfect. Private as opposed to public, Mr. Brewer, means that if individuals own a campground, that means it's a private campground. It's not owned by the state where you live. Now do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this was a private campground, right?
Yes.
Now, when were you stopped for the alcohol, Mr. Brewer?
Around 8:45.
Is that the same time that you were stopped for trespassing?
No, I was stopped for trespassing around 8:30.
And what'd you do with what you were carrying?
I kept it on me.
Well, how did you get caught with this alcohol? How did that happen?
When the police arrived, they asked to search my backpack.
When did the police arrive?
When I was walking out, I met the other co-owner of the campground. He told the security guard to call the police, give me a warning, and send me away.
Call the police for trespassing?
Yes.
Didn't you say to them, go to Caitlin's father, I gave him my $5. Didn't you say that to them?
Yes, I did.
And they didn't?
No, they called up front. Caitlin's father never went in and paid the $5, so therefore I wasn't on the list.
He would never be on the list to begin with because he was caught for trespassing the year before.
No.
He was not allowed. He was not allowed to be in the campground. No, that's a lie.
Just a second. How do you know he was stopped for trespassing the year before, Miss Chadwick?
We have this list in the store up by the reservation desk of people who are not allowed in the campground, period, for reasons maybe they got kicked out the year before or anything like that. And his name is on the list, and it has been, and it was before this incident.
Were you stopped the year before in that campground, sir?
No.
What about the year before that?
No.
At any time?
No.
I mean, she's just making it up.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Convenience store clerk Jennifer Chadwick says customer Adam Brewer owes for legal fees for false charges of selling alcohol to a minor.
Well, Mr. Brewer, it seems to me security at the campground says that you were told not to return to that campground.
As of this time, yes.
No. Officer's narrative indicates that Adam Brewer was told not to return to the campground and that they saw him on the property and wanted him arrested.
No. The first time I was on there without a cite because I was waiting for the campground to open up and accept cites.
So there was a time when you were told not to come back to that campground?
No, I was told not to come back unless I had a cite. I was waiting for my mother to come back and book it.
Well, that's not what security says. Then, when they stopped you and they said, can we look through your backpack, and they found this alcohol, you lied to them, right?
No.
Well, let me read what you said. Adam stated that he didn't know where it came from when asked where he got it from.
I told him I didn't want to tell.
No, that's not what they say. So the police made another mistake.
No.
They made another mistake.
No, I'm not saying that.
So you're saying that they lied on purpose in this
No.
police report? Well, there's either it was a mistake or it's on purpose. Which one was it?
Neither.
It has to be either a mistake. It's wrong. What's written in this report
No,
is
it's
wrong.
not. No,
so
it's
either
not.
it was a mistake or they lied on purpose.
No.
Got it? Were you in the store at the time this young man came into the store?
Yes.
Step up, please. Tell me your name.
My name's Jessica Black.
Please describe what you saw.
I saw the defendant step up to the counter with a can of soda, and I saw him and Jen talk a little bit, and Jen rang him in, and then he stepped away from the counter. That's all I saw, because I was back to them washing dishes at the time. So.
All right, Mr. Brewer, now I'd like you to describe for me how it is that the plaintiff sold you alcohol.
I walked up to the counter, set a Mountain Dew can on the counter. I asked specifically for a Smirnoff six-pack.
Just a second. So you brought up a can of soda?
Yes.
To the counter?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I asked specifically, Smirnoff Twisted Green Apple, how much it was. She said $7.49. Would you like one? I said yes. She also sold me a pack of cigarettes that night.
So let's see what we have. How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
We have an 18-year-old young man who goes to a place where he's required to pay an admission, and he doesn't. Some story about Caitlin's father, who is not even mentioned in this report in your narrative. Then he's told not to come back to the campsite, because that's what the security guard says, and he comes back anyway. Then the police stop him for trespassing. They look in his backpack. They say, where did you get this from? He says, I don't know. So he thinks that being slippery is okay. Well, being slippery is not okay. I think that he was a pretty good scam that you had, taking a bottle of Mountain Dew over to the counter, because I think that you could have just as well, if you wanted a six-pack and they're out there, you could take a six-pack and put that on the counter. I mean, that would be the normal thing to do. If you wanted to buy a six-pack, you would pick up a six-pack, bring it up to the counter and say, this is what I want. Is that what you did?
No.
No. You brought up the can of soda and said, how much is a six-pack?
Oh, Smirnoff Twisted Green Apple. I stated.
You're a liar.
I am not. I stated it.
You're a liar. I don't believe you. And if your mother believes you, she's going to spend a lot of time visiting you every other Sunday.
Told us.
Listen to me. She's going to be visiting you unless you straighten up every other Sunday. How much were your legal fees?
My legal fees were $711 total. I have the bills right here if you'd like.
I'd like to see them, please.
I also have a paper here that says the charges against me have been dropped because of insufficient evidence. I missed an entire semester of school to deal with this. I'm going to school to be a teacher.
Okay. Now, Mr. Brewer, let us assume, just for the briefest of moments, that I believe you. Let's assume that for a moment, that I believe this cock and bull story that you just gave me. You knew you weren't supposed to buy alcohol, so why did you do it?
Bad decision. Wasn't thinking.
Well, if it's a bad decision, sir, where do you get the gall to counterclaim for $4,500 this 20-year-old girl who had the misfortune of falling into your scheme? Where do you get the audacity to sue her?
I'm suing her for my fees that I had to pay for court. Hers was settled in November. Mine was settled in August. I spent
Sir, it's
longer
your
time.
fault.
It's not my fault that she didn't card me.
Unless you get him some serious help, I want you to put away one Sunday a month for the next 30 years, because he refuses to accept responsibility for doing the wrong thing.
I did accept responsibility. Right. I settled it myself.
Oh, God almighty. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $4,711. $4,000.
No, that's not even right.
$4,000 is for the annoyance, the fact that you lost a semester from school because of your ridiculousness.
I lost my own time.
Good! You deserve it!
How?
Get him out of here.
Parties are excused.
I'm just glad that Judge Judy saw it my way, saw the truth, what really happened.
She lied. Blatantly lied out there.
He asked me how much a six-pack was. He had a soda on the counter. What else was I supposed to think?
I had lost my car, grounded.
That's not my fault.
My family's still giving me crap for it. I mean, come on.
I hope he learns a little bit of responsibility and respect for authority.
20-year-old homemaker Autumn Platts is suing the father of her child, 21-year-old car wholesaler Brian Nice, for the cost of a car and unpaid rent. Autumn also says Brian punched a hole into the wall of their apartment.
This is case number 63 on the calendar in the matter of Platts versus Nice. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Miss Platts?
20 years old.
And you, sir?
21.
Well, the two of you decided to play house together. You moved in, you had a couple of dollars, you put $1,500 towards a used car that was purchased, then you had a baby, and then you decided that this family life was not for you right now, so you left. And what you want is you want your $1,500 back that you put down on the car because he took the car with him.
Yes.
You want him to pay some more money for rent because he left, leaving you with a lease.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you say that he caused some damage to the apartment?
Yes, Brian
caused some damage to the apartment. He says, well, there's plenty of security deposit to take care of that. He says that the car is his. It's in his name. It's titled in his name. It's registered in his name. It's his car. He had every right to take it. Doesn't deny that you put in the $1,500, right?
Correct.
He said that was a gift. And as
Your
far
Honor,
as the
that
rent,
was not a gift.
And as far as the rent is concerned, he said he was a really nice guy because he paid November and December's rent.
Correct.
Even though he only lived there part of November, and the rest you have to take care of. Right? Good.
No,
okay.
Your Honor.
How old is the baby?
10 months.
Who do you live with now?
The baby and I live together in our apartment.
In the same apartment?
Yes.
Are you working?
Currently, no.
Who's paying the rent on the apartment?
I've been using the baby's Christmas money, Catholic Charities help me, and my tax return money I've been using, and my parents have been helping me out.
How far do you live from your parents?
Maybe 3 miles.
And you don't want to go home?
No. It's my responsibility, my daughter. It is not my parents to take care of my daughter and I.
Well, but you said that they've been helping you. My question is, I mean, is there a reason that you wouldn't go home with your daughter?
No. Just that I'm independent with my daughter. This is our home.
Well, you're not independent. Miss Platts, let me explain something to you, darling, sweetheart, little girl. You're not independent if Catholic Charities are supporting you, your parents are supporting you, you're using the baby's money, which was not intended to use for your rent. That doesn't make you independent. That makes you dependent on a whole bunch of people. Independence means that you're able to take care of yourself. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
There's a difference between being independent, and just because you're living in an apartment not with your family, and being independent because you're taking care of yourself and your responsibilities.
Well, I was working prior to Brian.
I was.
And
I used to be a natural blonde. Do you understand? That's used to be. I was never a natural blonde. Get me riled. What are you doing with yourself?
I work full time.
And how much money do you contribute towards your daughter? It's not an answer.
I pay child support. They take
how much?
$120 a week.
I have not received any.
And I
don't just think that you can pop in here and speak. You cannot. When I look in your direction or ask you a question, you can speak. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Good. When did you start to pay $120 a week?
It went into effect about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And you left in November?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say 6 months. How much did you give her for 6 months?
I don't know offhand. Money here and
no,
here
just
and
a
there.
second. Offhand? I'm going to give you a second to think.
Okay.
When you moved out in November, how much money did you give her?
I paid the rent for November.
Good. Anything else?
No.
December?
I paid the rent also in December.
Anything else?
No.
January?
Nothing.
Nothing. February?
No.
March?
Nothing.
April?
Nothing.
Were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Why weren't you giving her money?
Because I didn't feel that I should have to pay her rent any longer.
I'm not talking about paying her rent. I'm talking about giving her money to support your daughter.
I give her money here and there.
Here and there is what?
When I have extra money to give.
No. Is your last name Nice?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nice, what kind of work do you do?
I work for a Chevy dealership.
How many hours a week do you work?
About 45 to 50.
How would you feel if your employer said, I think we're going to pay you once in a while?
I wouldn't appreciate it.
Right. Why is that, sir? Because it's their responsibility to pay you for the hours that you worked. Is that right?
Absolutely.
That's a commitment that
Yep.
they made. You work, they pay, right?
Yes.
When you make a baby, you have a commitment, the same sort of responsibility. Not when you have extra money. Your baby eats before you do. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you left Miss Platts, she wasn't working. Is that right?
That's right.
And she was staying home and taking care of the baby.
Right.
Put your hand down. I'm not speaking to you. So when you left, you knew that unless you gave her support, she was going to have to find some other way of getting money because daycare is expensive. So either she was going to stay home with the baby and put the baby in daycare and get a job, probably be a wash, right? So who did you think was going to support your baby?
Her.
How?
Find a job.
And who was going to take care of the baby?
A friend, babysitter.
And who was going to pay the friend or babysitter?
If she works, her.
And what about you?
Me too.
But you didn't?
I would help if she had a babysitter. I would help pay for it.
Did you tell her that?
Yeah, probably not.
Huh?
Have a good time. This one here.
Mr. Nice, did you use $1,500 of her money towards the purchase of this used car?
Yes, I did.
And how much was the car?
$2,500.
Where did you get the other $1,000 from?
I came up with it. My money.
What do you mean you came up with it?
I had money, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Autumn Platt says the father of her child, Brian Nice, owes for a car, his share of rent, and damage to their apartment. Autumn says Brian walked out on her and their baby.
Now, when you left, you took the car.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you purchase the car?
Last April.
So you had the car for less than a year when you left,
Yep.
right? And this car was to be used for the two of you as a family. Is that right?
Correct.
That's why she gave you more money than you put in for the car, right?
Yes.
So what makes you think that you're entitled to that car?
It's titled, registered, insured. She doesn't even have a license to drive a car.
That doesn't answer the question, sir. Same situation existed when she gave you the $1,500.
Correct.
The expectation was that the car was going to be used as a family for you, for her, for the baby, right?
Right.
Okay, when was the baby born?
July.
And the car was purchased in April?
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me about the damage to the house. First, who put down the security deposit?
Brian and I both put in $250 each for the security deposit.
What is the estimate of the damage to the apartment?
$217.50.
Well, then his half of the security deposit is going to cover the damage.
The holes are fixed now, and the bill is due. And I don't get the security deposit back until I move out of this apartment.
Get a job.
I start a job next week.
Perfect. He's not getting back his security deposit of $250. It's less than $250 to fix the holes that he put in the wall because he was angry. He had a temper flare-up. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So don't go back looking for your security deposit, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because you've spent it. Now let's get to the rent. Do you intend to stay in this apartment?
Yes, I do.
And it is possible to break the lease on this apartment because you're not responsible for the apartment because you were underage when you moved into the apartment. I mean, you couldn't sign a contract. You have to be 21 to sign a contract?
No, I have a lease that Brian and I both signed.
How old were you when you signed it?
Oh, I was 19.
Did you speak to the landlord with regard to breaking the lease?
Yes, and we would still have to pay the rent.
No, that's not true.
Oh.
No, that's not true. What do you mean? Oh, I asked you if you spoke to the landlord. Did the landlord tell you that for
He
so
said
much
he would
money
take
you
us
could...
to court.
No, he wouldn't. Did you try to sublet the apartment?
It says in the lease that no one else can move into there.
No, it says that you cannot sublet it without written consent of the owner. That's what it says. But you choose to stay there.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, if you choose to stay there and he paid November and December's rent, then you have to cover the rest.
I have the bills that I have paid from January till May.
Good.
The rent.
Good.
But
That's what you
I
have
had
to do.
put in money, too, for November and December's rent also.
That's okay. You were living there.
Yes.
So?
But I feel he should have to pay me half the rent for them
No, he
months
doesn't.
because his name is on the lease.
No, he doesn't. Madam, if you decide, Miss Platts, to stay in the apartment and you have the ability to either sublet the apartment or for a fee terminate the lease, and you chose to stay in the apartment with your daughter so that you can be independent, then you pay the rent, not him. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Perfect. But you are entitled to your $1,500 back because the $1,500 was not a gift over here to Prince Charming. The $1,500 was made with the expectation that both of you would be enjoying the car. Do I make myself clear, sir?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He has supervised visitations on Saturdays 12 to 2 for 2 months now, over 2 months, and he's shown up for one.
I work Saturdays. It's hard to get the day off.
I want him drug tested because he does drugs.
I have to pass a drug test, which should not be a problem.
Homemaker Lisa Dyer is suing her sister-in-law, homemaker Sonia Malone, for the return of a ring. Sonia is countersuing for defamation of character and for making threats.
Yeah, this is case number 55 on the calendar, the matter of Dyer versus Malone. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Bird, would you please get from Miss Malone the ring in question?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Take it.
Very nice. Miss Dyer, Miss Malone is your sister-in-law. She's
Yes.
married to your brother, and before this whole incident with this piece of jewelry, the two of you enjoyed, according to what I've read, a very cordial, friendly relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
According to you.
Mm-hmm.
It is your claim that Miss Malone has your ring.
Correct.
She says that you lost it, her niece found it, her niece sold it to her. That's how she came into possession of the ring. In any event, this is your ring. It is clearly conceded that this ring initially belonged to you. You had it made?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And according to you, your sister-in-law really loved the ring.
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, she even wanted to buy it. Anyway, you want your ring back.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Malone says that you tossed the ring out in some clothes that you were giving away. She knows that because she purchased the ring from your niece?
Yes, ma'am.
Who had found the ring. You fixed the ring.
Yes, ma'am.
Put in a new stone or two, and it's your ring. And aside from that, you got paid for the ring from your insurance.
Exactly.
So that finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And in addition, Miss Malone says that you've gone around saying that she took the ring, you threatened her and her family, and she wants the value of the replacement diamond, the fixing of the ring, and she's got a counterclaim.
Mm-hmm.
When did you have the ring made?
I had the ring made in 1988.
And when, for the first time, did your sister-in-law tell you she loved the ring? Do you remember?
She was sort of my best friend at the time that I had the ring made and designed. She seen the ring after I had it made, and she always admired the ring. She always begged me for the ring. I'm going to get that ring. You know, I want that ring. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Okay.
She loved the ring.
She wanted the ring.
Right.
Now, when did you stop wearing the ring?
About 2 years ago.
Why?
There was a stone missing.
When did you notice the ring was missing?
I noticed the ring missing a while back. I was so heartbroken over the ring gone, but I never reported to police. And no, I have not made an insurance claim on this ring. Okay, I just want to make that clear. So in May of 2003, she's married to my brother, and I purchased a home in the state of Virginia. So I came to her home, and I announced that I was moving and so forth and so on. The first thing that came out of her mouth was, "Where's that ring?" I'm like, I haven't seen the ring in a while. I'm hoping that when I move, that maybe I'll run across it. And so then I move. It's a lot of transferring from moving from one state to another. So I, in January, came to the defendant's house because I was purchasing cigarettes for her. And so I called my brother and told him I brought his wife some cigarettes and I was on my way over. So I arrived at her home, and I went...
You spoke to your brother, not the defendant?
No, I didn't speak to her. I spoke to my brother and told him I was coming to his home. So when I came to her home and I looked up across the room, I just seen the ring glisten. I knew immediately when it glistened that it was my ring. I went over there and I grabbed her hand and I said, "How did you get my ring?" She's like, "This isn't your ring. This isn't your ring." I said, "Yes, it is, Sonia. That's the ring you've been begging me forever." "No, it's not." And so I was so upset that I was shaking and panicky and this and the other. And then once I brought it to my brother's attention, my brother says, "Yeah, that is your ring. You know, sis, that is your ring. Now I recall, that is your ring, you know." So she says to me, "Well, I paid $50 for the ring and I've got money involved into it and I'm not just handing over the ring."
Okay. Now, Miss Malone, I'm going to go to you. You tell me where you got this ring from.
I bought it off my niece, Claudette Sparks.
Okay, step up. Your name is Sparks?
Yes.
And how are you her niece?
I'm through marriage. Her husband is my husband's uncle.
Okay, so on the other side.
Yes.
And how did you acquire this ring?
First of all, I just want to know that, I'm an independent witness. I'm not on either side because I don't want to stand in the middle of family. She was having a garage sale, said that whatever...
Who was having a garage
Lisa,
sale?
she was getting ready to move, was having a garage sale. She said, "Whatever clothes is left, whatever you want, come and get it." I went over there with garbage bags. I filled up 16 big black garbage bags.
Of clothes?
Of clothes. I brought them home. I didn't go through them right away. I left them outside because a lot of people give me clothes, and that's what I do. I, put them to the side for whoever could use them. When I was going through the clothes, I started bringing bags at a time in. Didn't know whose it was. I picked up a big pile of clothing, and underneath I saw a ring. At the time I saw it, there were diamonds missing, and it was really dirty. It was all black. I didn't think it was real. I let my daughter play with it. Sonia had seen the ring.
How did she see the ring?
When she had come over, I was showing her my daughter's play jewelry. My daughter had gotten jewelry for Christmas, and it was just in my dresser drawer. We were just going through things, and she saw the ring.
And she asked about it?
Yes.
And what did you tell her, Miss Sparks? Where did you tell her you got the ring?
I told her that I found it laying in the hallway in front of the bathroom. It's exactly like I didn't tell her that it fell out of clothes. I didn't tell her none of that. I told her I found it in front of my bathroom door when I was going through clothes.
When you were listen to me, let's be very careful, okay? Because one thing I've learned in my business, if it's not logical, it's usually not true.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Her sister-in-law, Sonia Malone, stole her ring. Sonia says she bought the ring from her niece.
Now, if somebody says to you, where did you get that ring? A normal person would not say, I found it on the floor in my bathroom.
Okay, I understand.
Do you understand?
Yes, they fell out of the
They
pile
would
of clothes.
say, when I was going through bags of clothes, I found it. Right?
Yes.
The next normal question from somebody who knew what the ring was would say, where did you get the clothes, right?
Yes.
And what did you tell Miss Malone when she asked you where you got the clothes from?
I do believe I told her that these were some clothes from Lisa's garage sale that I had brought over.
Right. Okay. Now, what did she say to you?
She just asked me if I wanted to sell the ring.
And you said?
I said, it's ugly. I would give it to you, but I could use the money, so here.
So here what?
I sold her the ring. I gave it to her.
You sold her the ring for?
$50.
Okay, and she took out $50 and gave it to you?
Yes, in cash.
And you say, I'm an independent witness. So let me tell you where you went wrong in the first place. If I'm part of a family and I go to pick up some clothes, and in the bag of clothes I find something that is valuable or potentially valuable, if I'm a good family member, I call Lisa and say, you know, Lisa, you know what I found in that bag of clothes that I took from you? I found this piece of jewelry. I don't know if it's a good piece of jewelry. It's not, but, you know, I'm sure you didn't realize that you were throwing it out with your clothes. Here's your ring back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right?
Yes. But I was not aware that that was her ring. I had different clothes that were coming.
Baloney. Baloney. Even if you suspected that it might have been coming from her bag, if you suspected it might be yours, a family member says, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially when she said, where did it come from? Light bulb should have gone off in your head. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Sit down. Now, Miss Malone, let's get to you, madam. She told you that she believed that this bag of clothing came from the plaintiff. This is a ring that you had previously seen. So you knew the ring belonged to Lisa,
No,
right?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. Don't be a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Don't be a liar. You knew the ring belonged to Lisa. You thought.
She told me she just found the ring. She didn't say it came specifically out of a bag.
She found the ring where? She just testified. Are you telling me that
In
your
her
witness
house.
is lying?
In her house.
She found the ring. What, the ring fairy brought it into her house? She told you how she got it, Miss Malone. Don't fib to me. I'll make you look like a fool. You said, where did you find it? She said, I was cleaning out bags of clothes. What clothes? She already testified to that. So don't be a liar.
I'm not a liar.
Yes, you are. You knew this ring. You had seen this ring over the years. You knew the ring belonged to the plaintiff. You don't even deny your answer that you knew the ring belonged to the plaintiff or that you had a strong suspicion that it belonged to the plaintiff. What you say in your answer is, I bought it for $50.
Correct.
I paid to have it fixed.
Correct.
Therefore, it's mine.
Correct.
Right. Wrong. Wrong. You knew that the ring did not belong to your witness to sell. And you knew that when you gave her $50 for the ring, that it was worth a lot more than $50. So you were not a purchaser without knowledge that this was either lost, misplaced, or perhaps stolen. Therefore, now your claim is that you paid $50 for it, which I reject because you shouldn't have paid $50 for it. You shouldn't have paid anything for it. You should have said to her, especially a family member, you better ask Lisa whether that's her ring, whether she intended to give it away. That's what you should have said first. Then when you invested money, you expect to get your money back.
Right.
You don't get it back. You did the wrong thing. If you do the wrong thing, you don't get the money back. So aside from making trouble in your family, which I'm sure you did between your husband and his sister and everybody else and getting her involved, all because you wanted an extra piece of jewelry, you did the wrong thing. When you do the wrong thing, you're not rewarded. So you don't get the ring back, and you don't get what you paid for it, and you don't get what you paid to have it fixed. She gets the ring back. Now let's get to your counter.
The ring looked familiar. I asked her if Lisa had seen the ring. She told me that Lisa had offered her $100 for the ring, but she chose not to sell it to her.
Why? Let me tell you something. She says she didn't know whose ring it was. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your witness says she didn't know whose ring it was when she sold it to you. Give her back the ring.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
your first counterclaim, Miss Malone, is that the plaintiff has been telling people that you have her ring wrongfully. Is that right?
She said that I stole the ring. I never stole the ring.
Well, you did. In effect, you did. Because she didn't know that the ring was not an abandoned piece of property. You knew. Now, Miss Malone, there isn't very much question in my mind that if your husband had told you she was coming over, you would have taken off the ring before she got there.
No, that's not true.
Oh, well, for a while she hadn't seen it. And you do wear a lot of jewelry. So my sense is that you probably, had you had noticed that she was coming over, you would have slipped it off your finger and said, I don't want to start any trouble.
That's not true. I didn't think the ring was hers, Your Honor.
I don't believe it. Don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't believe you. Circumstances suggest to me that you knew or should have known, if you wanted to open up your mind, that the ring belonged to Lisa. At least enough that you would have said to her, Lisa, is this yours? All in all, you did the wrong thing. You don't get rewarded for doing the wrong thing. Your counterclaim's dismissed. You have your ring back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't know it was her ring.
She knew this ring. She knew this ring when she seen it from Claudette.
Nobody in the family wants nothing to do with her. She's a trifling lying.
She was my friend, and she was my birth coach for 2 children.
I was not her best friend. I didn't hang out with her.
I'm just glad it's going to be over with now. Maybe, the family can calm down a little bit.
I knew in my heart that I would prevail on this and would get my ring back.
She can never be around my kids or nothing. She's out of our family.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gerber versus Holtmeyer. Step forward, please.
27-year-old nurse Lauren Gerber is suing her former friend, nurse's aide Gregory Holtmeyer, for punching her windshield. Gregory claims it never happened.
Ms. Gerber, the defendant was a friend of yours, and it is your claim that he twice damaged your car. You want him to pay for the damage. Mr. Holtmeyer said he never damaged your car. You're just annoyed because he no longer wants to be a friend of yours, and he's moved on to a relationship with somebody, a relationship that he believes you wanted to have with him, but he wasn't interested. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I read your answer. If there's anything that I said there that's wrong, please correct me.
That's close.
I like to be precise.
That was precise.
Don't be annoying, Mr. Holtmeyer. All right, Miss Gerber, when was the first time he damaged your car?
Was in February of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was pulling my vehicle out of the driveway, which was next to my house, and he got a little too close to the house, and it hit the driver's side mirror, which shattered and also scraped the left fender.
And you were in the car at the time?
I was in the passenger seat.
When was the second time he damaged your car?
September of 2003.
Tell me about that.
We had been at my apartment watching a Cowboys-Giants game, and on the way home, punched the inside of the windshield with his fist, which he wears a Dallas ring on, and that's what hit the glass and shattered.
Who was driving?
I was driving.
And what did he say at that time? That was September of 2003.
That he was sorry and go get an estimate. He'd pay whatever the estimate was for it.
Between February 2002 and September of 2003, did you let him drive your car?
On occasion.
How come you stopped being friends?
In October, we had made plans for him to move in with me. His mother had to move to St. Louis, and he had nowhere to stay. The day before he was scheduled to move in, I hadn't heard from him. The day of, I still hadn't heard from him. I went to the house, and it was completely empty. Everything was gone, and that's the last time I'd heard from him.
What made you decide to pursue the 2-year-old broken mirror on your car?
Because in October, he was still saying once he was waiting on an insurance settlement from an accident last March when he got run over by a truck.
Did you fix this mirror on your car?
The mirror I did fix. It was undrivable with it broken.
And how much did it cost to fix the mirror?
It was $140.
And how much is the windshield?
$242.30. I have pictures of that.
I'd like to see it. Let's hear about this side mirror in February of 2002, sir.
I don't know anything about that. When I had come home from Indiana, I did Kohler, and I would go over to her house, and we would sometimes drink and watch TV or hang out on the porch and just talk about, at that time she was seeing Lance, a boyfriend of hers. And
I need to hear this.
that night, I guess the night she's talking about, I don't remember driving her car home. So that's news to me. If I broke anything or ran into something, I would like to see evidence of that.
No, what she said was that you were pulling out of her driveway.
Impossible.
Why is it impossible?
I'd have to be in the driver's seat.
Yes. You never drove her car?
I drove it on occasion, but not that night.
How do you know?
Because I know.
Well,
I got out on the passenger side and went home.
You're talking about 2 years ago.
Exactly.
You remember 2 years ago?
I remember a lot of things. I got a good memory.
You're a smart aleck.
Maybe. I know if I was driving the car, I wasn't driving the car. I got out of the passenger side and went into my house.
Do you see my mouth moving? When my mouth moves, yours doesn't. What do you do for a living?
Certified nursing aide.
Okay. Do you take care of elderly people?
Yes, I do.
Are you supposed to be kind and understanding when
I am.
you take care of elderly people?
Yes.
And respectful?
Yes.
This is my space. Let's remember that. Have I said anything that was disrespectful to you so far?
Okay.
Have I said anything that was wise-alecky to you?
No.
Do you think you have said things that are disrespectful to me?
Probably.
Is there any particular reason for that, Mr. Holtmeyer?
Just nervous.
Well, sometimes when people are nervous, their palms sweat and they become quiet. So you mean when you're nervous, you become nasty? Is that what you're telling me?
I guess.
Clearly. When you're nervous, you become nasty. I would certainly hope that your employers will be watching this case so that they can ascertain what happens to you when you become under stress. February of 2002 is what you're telling me that you remember the night that she's talking about, and you were not driving the car.
Nope.
And nothing happened that night.
Not to my knowledge. I got out of the passenger side and went home that night. The same with the windshield. I got a call 2 days after the fact, and it said I broke her windshield. And I said, I did what? She said,
Maybe you had too much to drink. Mr. Holtmeyer, I also think that the people who allow you to take care of older people should understand that when you have too much to drink, you don't remember things. And that could be a very dangerous thing when you're taking care of people who are infirm. The people who you work for are now on notice that that's, as far as I'm concerned, a real problem that you have. You owe her $382, sir, and that's $140 for her mirror and $242 from breaking her windshield. Both of those things I find that you did. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $382. That's all.
Why is our excuse? You missed step out.
We've been very good friends for about 7 years. I'd done a lot of things for him, numerous, and just apparently didn't know what kind of a person he was until now.
people perceive the wrong things when I first speak, and they assume.
I feel that he's dishonest, and that pretty much wraps it up. Uses people.
I didn't do it.
Sometimes I'm just too nice, and I get taken for granted.
26-year-old student Mary Sandy Saturday is suing 25-year-old store owner Taquana Colvin for lost wages due to a false arrest. Taquana claims Sandy assaulted her, and she's countersuing for lost wages and emotional distress.
That's case number 83 on the calendar in the matter of Saturday versus Colvin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Who is this?
This is my mother.
Who is this?
This is my mom.
Do you work?
I just graduated college.
And you?
I have my own business.
What kind of business?
It's a secondhand store that sells home interior and clothing.
Okay. How long have you been in that business?
Just 4 months.
And what kind of work does your mother do?
My mother's retired.
From what?
It's an electric company.
You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I do.
You do? You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
She has not.
Right?
Right, it's not.
Ridiculous, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Did you ever have a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Yes.
How many times?
One time, someone came to my house to fight me.
How long ago?
25 years ago.
Okay. One time. I don't understand girls having fights.
My mother had a fist fight.
Sorry, Bert, I don't care. Yeah, I'm sure your mother's a nice lady. I don't
She
understand. I don't understand ladies having fists. I don't understand men having fist fights, but you know, they're men, so you sort of understand it. But I don't understand women.
Yes, having fights.
Nurturers. Caregivers.
Yes.
Pulling hair, scratching eyes, using their... I don't understand that. You agree?
Yes, I agree.
So, it is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested twice for various acts, and the second time was for violating a protective order that she had against you. The defendant has a cross-complaint. The defendant's cross-complaint is that you assaulted her and caused her to lose a contact lens, so you both want lots of money from the other for emotional distress and this loss of your freedom and the filing of false charges against you. Those charges were subsequently dismissed after a trial.
Yes.
Okay. How do you know each other?
I met Taquana through a mutual friend.
What started the problem between the two of you?
Taquana is just a bad person. I was around her only for about 2 months, and the type of person she is just, she's a bad person. She does bad things. She's very argumentative.
So you didn't like her?
Yeah, and I decided I didn't want to be around her. And while she was still friends with the friend that we met through, I even told Taquana, like, well, since you're around her and I'm around her, we're going to get along, just like that. And the last time I had seen Taquana was probably like the beginning of June of 2003, and didn't see her again to September 9th, September 10th at a nightclub. And I seen her with her cousin. I went up to her cousin, because Taquana and her cousin, they just started being back friends.
Listen to me.
Okay.
I have other cases to do.
Okay,
today. Let's get to it.
Okay, well, I said something to Taquana's cousin, and evidently her cousin said something to her.
So you said something negative
I
about
really didn't say. I'll tell you what I said. When I was seeing her cousin, I went to her, I gave her a hug, and I told her, I was like, if you need a friend to hang around, I will hang around you. You do not have to hang with Taquana. Taquana is a bad person.
So you said negative things about her?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On September 10th, the night that I seen her, Taquana called like 3:40 in the morning, left me this crazy, terrible message telling me that she's going to handle me, she's going to come to my house, she's going to see me, this and this and that, and she's going to call me early in the morning. At 8:40 in the morning, she also called me and told me that she's going to come over to my house and handle me. And I have the recording right here if you would like to hear it. Brace yourself.
Saved message.
James, just stop. Stop the tape. Make it lower, Bird, so that, because it probably is distorting the sound, so that I can hear it. I got the gist of it. Why would you call her and leave that kind of a message?
Because Sandy had been slandering my name to relatives as well as...
what had she been saying about you that you heard?
She had been saying that I give oral sex, I will steal your man, I will steal your money, I'm a bad person, just all types of things about my character that were false.
So
I was...
You think that a message like that says that you're a good person?
No, it doesn't.
You think it says that you are a genteel person?
I think that that type of message would just lead somebody to believe that I was highly upset.
Well, we're going to get her, because that's what you said.
Yes,
in the
I was...
message. That's what you said in
I
the
didn't say that I was going to get her.
Well, pretty much.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sandy Saturday says Taquana Colvin had her falsely arrested for assault. Taquana claims Sandy beat her up and threatened her life.
She called you and she left a nasty message. What's next?
Okay, when she filed a false charge against me for, she said I was stalking her. This was like on March 10th.
Let me see what she filed against you.
And that's how my mother got involved.
Well, it says that, did she assault you in September of 2003?
Yes.
How?
Sandy called me back at my cousin's house, and we talked, and she stated at that time that she didn't want to fight me, and she was tired of arguing with me. And so at that time I asked Sandy, what will it take for you to stop
That is the whole
No.
story.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Say nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What will it take for you to stop slandering my name and talking about me constantly? And I suggested, if I give you back your $50 for the 50-cent concert ticket, would that settle the dispute?
Why were you going to give her back the $50? Had she given you $50 and you didn't give her the ticket?
Yes, she had. I gave her the ticket, actually. She had gave me, before we went on a summer vacation together, I purchased a set of 3 tickets. One was for Mary, one was for another person, and one was for myself. And we went on the summer vacation where Sandy and this other woman started being really mean to me. So by the time that I returned to Cincinnati, I had pretty much decided that I was going to end the relationship with Mary and her friend, and that they were not going to the concert with me. I had purchased them on my credit card, and what I wanted to do was just reimburse them for their money. And take other people, and Mary agreed.
That was September
10th. Yeah. So I went over to her house.
What time?
Almost noon.
Okay.
When I stepped up on the curb, Mary appeared at the door. She ran out of her house and ran down the steps, and she approached me. She asked me, "What the do you have to say now?" And I said, "I don't have anything to say to you. I'm coming over here." And before I could finish my sentence, she punched me in the forehead.
And then what happened?
And she continued punching me. She started choking me. I was pushing Mary back by her shoulders, constantly asking her to stop fighting me. She was choking me, said, "I'm going to choke the hell out of you. I'm going to kill you." Basically, I punched Sandy back a few times or so, trying to keep her off me. I turned and I ran across the street, and she chased me across the street and grabbed me by the back of my hair. It was just basically hitting on me.
Fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me your interpretation of the
Okay,
events
Judy.
of September 10th.
I never called Taquana. I never spoke with Taquana. I haven't had a conversation with Taquana since probably the end of May. About around 12 o'clock or whatever, ritual, I go to the gym around that time. I come out my house, and Taquana's sitting in her car waiting for me. And I walked down the stairs, and we just started fighting. But you didn't hear the rest of this tape. The tape is crazy, and it's just crazy. And the police, I did call the police because I live on a cul-de-sac, and Taquana and some girl kept riding on the adjacent street from me. And I sat on my porch and waited for...
And you were arrested as a result of...
I was arrested 12 days later, the first time.
But for this incident?
For
this incident on September 10th?
Yeah, I was arrested on September 22nd.
Can I see the paperwork you have, please?
Okay. This is for assault. This is the dismissal for the TPO, and this is the acquit for the valet and the protection order.
Yeah, well, it says on September 18th. Not September 10th. It says it's September 18th. Was there another argument on September 18th?
No.
No. Obviously,
they got this all wrong.
She had did this to other people in 2003 too. So since she done did it to so many people, they probably got mixed up.
Well, maybe I'll ask that question. Maybe it will be in this other report. Have you been cited for any other assault in 2003?
No, ma'am.
Yes, she has. Right here.
You sure? Before I look at any other document, Ms. Colvin.
I totally forgot about that, but I didn't have to go to court on it.
Can I see it, please? That's not what I asked you.
They just drove us to the police. Yes, ma'am.
And this fight ended in 2000.
Yes, you certainly have. How many times have you been cited for assault?
I think just 2 leading up to that situation.
It's fair to say that you have a problem with your temper.
I don't have a problem with my temper.
How many times have you been taken into custody for assault?
None.
With the exception of this time?
Yeah, with the exception of that one. Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Including myself, 2 other people filed protection orders against Taquana in 2003.
And they were
dismissed.
dismissed.
Can I see them, please?
All for the same thing.
Can I see them, please?
No, that's not true.
Can I
Let's
take
speak,
a look?
Judge?
What?
Can I speak?
Sure.
Okay. Ma'am,
Sandy is saying that Taquana does all this and all that. This has been a big ongoing thing with our cousin.
Listen to me. I have a
Yes.
who sought a protective order against you.
Ex-boyfriend.
I don't care, but he sought a protective order.
Okay.
I have a...
Yes, and they were both dismissed.
They were both dismissed.
Listen to me. You have a temper. I just heard it.
Okay.
Okay, so I have one incident here that caused this protective order. It was ultimately dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get to the second one. The second cause of action that you have is that these two ladies came to your place of business and you told your boss that there was a protective order because there was a temporary protective order in place. He asked you to leave. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did leave.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you filed a violation of the temporary protective order.
Yes, ma'am. Can I tell you what happened?
Sure.
When we
No. I want her to tell me what happened.
I left the bar manager.
How many bars are there in Cincinnati?
Many.
So how do you think it came about that you chose the one where she was employed to go into with your mother?
It's not that I chose the one that she was employed at. I live on that street. My business is on that street, and I attend that bar several times a week. Mary chose to get a job at that bar knowing that I had already been living on that street, had already been owning a business on that street. She got the job. Did she have proof of how long she had been working at that bar?
Just a second. Don't ask me. You're showing your temper, honey.
Okay.
I'm going to just let you go. You're going to bury yourself. On what basis do you claim that she violated the protective order?
Before the bar manager came over to ask me if I had a restraining order against her or whatever, I agreed. I told him, yes, I did have a temporary restraining order against her. He said, okay, that's fine. When you finish with your drink, would you please leave? I said, sure, I will leave when I'm finished with my drink.
Why didn't you just leave?
Because I was in the middle of my drinks as well.
But
I was with
when
my
you
relatives.
file a protective order against somebody, that
I was
means...
there first, Your Honor.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
When you file a protective order against someone, Ms. Colvin, it means that you're afraid of them, right?
Supposedly, yes.
What do you mean supposedly, yes?
That you're supposed to be afraid of this person. Yes.
Right. So
But I was with my...
Sit down. So I would assume that when you filed, since you say you're a normal person, that when you filed a protective order against her, you filed it because you were afraid of her.
Right.
Well, then, I wouldn't wait till I finished my drink, even though I was there first. I would say to my mother, I don't want there to be any trouble. Let's go. You, on the other hand, decided to stay because you were there first. And your store is on that street, and you had a right to be. Well, that's what you just told me. You said I was there first.
I was there first, but I was going to leave like the bar manager asked me when I finished my drink.
He shouldn't have to ask you.
Okay.
Don't you understand what I just said? He shouldn't have to ask you,
because
madam.
I'm supposed to be afraid, right?
Let me tell you something. I believe that she filed these protective orders against you, and I believe she filed them maliciously. And I believe she knew about filing protective orders because she had already been served with a few herself in her lifetime, so she knew exactly what kind of trouble you could get into. Now, is the assault that you are claiming the assault when you went over to give her back her $50? That's your counterclaim, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's baloney. Because that girl whose foul, fresh mouth left 2 messages on that machine did not go over to make peace the next day. No way. So your counterclaim is dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe that she did file these cases against you maliciously. You were ultimately fired from your job. You're seeking $3,000 in damages. Now, my question to you is, do you believe that you acted appropriately in all of your dealings with the
acted
defendant?
very appropriately.
Okay. Put your hand down. Better teach your daughter a little self-control. She needs it. Tell me about your job. When did you lose your job?
Let me tell you what they did. When they talking about they was going to just leave after the drink, no, they put up a fight to stay in the bar. They put up a fight. And
what did they say?
They was talking to the manager, talking about it's a public place. They have the right to come and drink this and this and that. And I get to work at 6 o'clock. About 7:15, they were still in there. And then 3 police officers 3 police officers came to my job, got me from out the bar, and arrested me. Taquana told them I threatened to kill her.
You mean at the bar?
At the bar. And then a few days later, or the next day, her and her mother, she get it from her mother. Her and her mother requested a meeting with the bar manager and the owner to get me fired.
Is that when you were fired 3 days later?
Yes.
But you were removed from the bar by the police?
I was physically removed and arrested.
What?
She was removed from the bar because she went back by the register and turned around and faced me and my party and did this, and at the same time said that you were dead.
You shouldn't have been there.
Yes, ma'am.
You were annoying her. Okay. You and your mother. And whoever else you were with. You had no right to be there. Saturday is seeking compensation for having her falsely arrested and for losing her job in the amount of $3,000. I'm awarding her $3,000.
Thank you.
You better learn to watch yourself. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.
Thank you.
That's all.
Everything that girl said was a lie. Everything. Her life is a lie.
We don't want Mary to call our house or even be, talking about her in the street. She won the money. That's all she wants. She needs to let it go.
This should be the end of it.
Her mother is the devil. She's the devil advocate. I'm grown. I didn't bring my mother into this. She brought my mother into this because she made false charges against my mother, too.
She knew that I was coming over there like we agreed on the telephone, and I was approaching the building to give her the money.
Taquana got what she deserves. She has done this to other people, and I'm the only one who took it this far, but she got what she deserves.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Frazier versus Lovelace. Step forward, please.
Computer operator Cheryl Frazier is suing her former friend, daycare owner Felicia Lovelace, for stealing her sewing machine. Felicia says she bought the machine from Cheryl's daughter.
Miss Frazier, it is your claim that 3.5 years ago, the defendant borrowed a sewing machine of yours, an old sewing machine.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't borrow it from you directly.
No, ma'am, she didn't.
She borrowed it, according to you, from your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't return it.
No, ma'am.
So you just woke up and found out that the sewing machine wasn't there. You want from her $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
$3,000. The sewing machine was worth a couple of $100 maybe, but you want the rest of the money because you say that because you didn't have the sewing machine, you weren't able to make money. And the other $2,800. What kind of work do you do?
Well, I have a job as a computer operator, but I have a business where I sew lingerie.
Weren't you missing this sewing machine? If that's your business?
Well, I have quite a few, Your Honor.
You have quite a few what?
Sewing machines.
How many do you have?
I have 4 antiques. I have a $4,000 embroidery machine, and then I have some ones that I bought used.
When did you realize that this sewing machine was missing?
It was the latter part of November 2003.
So what did you do?
Well, I looked around the house for it.
Oh, you didn't find it. So
no, I didn't.
Go ahead. Keep going.
And
I'm very unsympathetic with this.
Okay, I understand.
This is a little nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
I understand. I called my daughter up and I asked her about it.
Step up. Name?
Fallon Frazier.
Ms. Frazier, tell me how the defendant got possession of the sewing machine.
I think I was like a junior I was a junior in high school, and she called one day and she asked for my mother at home, and I told her no. And then she asked me if I had a sewing machine, and I said yes, and she asked if she could borrow it, and I told her yes. She said she was going to return it the next day.
You gave her your sewing machine. It wasn't your mother's sewing machine, it was yours.
Yes.
Okay, good. And what happened the next day?
The next day I called her, and she said she would bring it by, and she never came by.
And what happened the day after that?
The day after that, I didn't call her.
And the day after that?
I didn't call her until about like some months later.
And when you called her some months later, what did she say to you?
She said she was going to bring it back.
And she didn't bring it back?
No, she didn't.
And if you were missing it and she borrowed it and put your hand down. If you were missing it and she had borrowed it, you would have told your mother, Felicia borrowed my sewing machine, Mom. She hasn't returned it and I need it. But you never told your mother.
No, ma'am.
Not until just listen to me, not until 3 years later. Right?
Right.
Huh?
Right.
Good. Now you want to tell me about the sewing machine?
It wasn't 3 years. It was like 5 years. It was in 1999. I was expecting a child, and I borrowed the sewing machine because we had made a quilt at church. And I called over and I asked Fallon, hey Fallon, how you doing? Is Cheryl there? And she said no. And I said, well, I was trying to borrow a sewing machine. I was going to see if she'll let me use her sewing machine to sew around the quilt. And she said, well, I got one. And she said, well, you can use that one. And I said, well, okay. And then she said, well, it's pretty old. I don't even know if it works anymore. And then I said, well, can I get it and see if it works? And then
listen
she said,
to me. Don't shake your head, because you know nothing about what happened. You know nothing about what happened between your daughter and this lady, except what your daughter tells you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And I said, well, can I get it? And she said, well, yeah, you can get it. And she said, it's in the basement. I don't feel like going down there and get it. I said, well, Fallon, I'll give you $30 if you go down there and get it. And she said, well, okay. I said, well, we're on our way over there to get it. And then she said, okay. So we got over there. We blew the horn, and Fallon was at the door. And she brought the sewing. I went up to the porch, and she came out with the sewing machine. I got the sewing machine. Fallon never called me back for that sewing machine because she said she didn't. She said she didn't even want it because it wasn't no good.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Miss Lovelace, your story changed a little bit from the answer that you wrote. What you just told me was, if you go downstairs to the basement, I'll give you $30. That's what you told me.
Okay.
She never offered me no money.
Which means, for her trouble of going down to you, and you called and asked if you could borrow a sewing machine.
Right.
So you borrowed this sewing machine, and you gave her $30 for the trouble of going down, according to you, of getting the sewing machine. Stop shaking your head.
$30.
Of going down and getting the sewing machine. Then you had to return it. Why didn't you return it?
Well, I should have, but I didn't.
Fine. Then you're responsible for it. Because she's underage. She can't give away something that clearly was not necessarily hers. Might have been her mother's. I'm not exactly sure. She said it was hers. I have an old one, according to you. But clearly, you borrowed it. You kept it for a long period of time. You don't still have it, according to you.
No.
And clearly, this was an old sewing machine that Miss Frazier never even missed in, you say, since 1999. Maybe 1999, maybe 2000. I don't know what it is. I mean, the sewing machine isn't worth much. Wasn't worth much when you got it in 1999. Certainly wasn't worth much in 2003 by the time you woke up and found out that it wasn't there. How much do you think, Miss Frazier, this was worth when it was borrowed?
I had just bought the sewing machine.
I don't believe that. No. Listen to me.
I bought it used.
Okay.
I bought it used, and
Miss Frazier, listen to me.
Okay.
I don't believe that your daughter gave away a machine that you had just purchased, whether you just purchased it new or used. I don't believe that you had just purchased it. When did you buy it, and how much did you pay?
I bought it in August of 1999. I paid $279. You would have to understand my daughter, Your Honor. My daughter, anything, we have an issue of mine versus hers. I had a brand new sewing machine that I had purchased, and I went and bought that used to keep her from using my brand new sewing machine. Okay? She still was using my sewing machine.
You said that you had loads of sewing machines.
I do, but she only wants to use whatever I use to sew with, Your Honor.
Not a major deal. You lived without the sewing machine for either 3.5 years or 5 years. Miss Lovelace absolutely should have returned the sewing machine. It was a loan. The fact that she forgot about it, put it in her basement, there was a flood, she got rid of it, that doesn't excuse the fact that she borrowed it and she should have returned it. You are not entitled to $2,800 for the lost value of lost earnings that you could have made from this sewing machine were it available for use, because that is nonsense. You're entitled to what probably is fair, reasonable value of what a sewing machine might cost. And I have no idea what a used sewing machine costs. I'll take a look at the bill. Not that I necessarily believe that that's the sewing machine, but I just want to take a look at it. Now, Miss Lovelace, did you use the sewing machine to complete your project?
No, because it didn't work when I got it. And then when Cheryl called me about the sewing machine, I told her it didn't work. And she said, well, wasn't nothing wrong with it, but the tension had to be straightened out.
Oh.
That's what she said.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She doesn't even run a business to get $3,000 for it. So she got what she had coming.
I do, in fact, I just started up my business, and she knows she's been to my home.
She's been harassing me. She's been calling the state and everybody on me, trying to bring me down because I run a business.
I don't do things like that. I don't involve my children in anything like that.
I have 13 kids of my own to take care of. I don't have time for her harassing me and calling me and harassing me.
Calling her about something that was mine is not harassment.
She's trying to blow everything out of proportion, and she's trying to get me for what? I don't know.
The friendship was gone a long time ago.
We have police reports and everything about this girl. This girl is crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spring versus Bell. Step forward, please.
24-year-old graduate student Natalie Spring is suing her former friend, Baker Marquetta Tammy Bell, for medical bills from a dog bite. Tammy says the attack was Natalie's fault.
Miss Spring, Miss Bell's dog bit you.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated.
That's right, Your Honor.
Not only for the dog bite, but also for clothing that was ripped, etc.
Yes.
Miss Bell does not deny that her dog bit you. She said it's your fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
You sure you want to go with that defense, Miss Bell, because you look like a woman that doesn't like to get beaten up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but that's your defense, that it's
Yes,
her
ma'am.
fault. Okay. Where did this happen, Miss Spring?
This happened at Miss Bell's house.
What were you doing at Miss Bell's house?
I had gone over. I had arranged with Tammy before to bake some cakes for a party that I was throwing, and so I went over to her house to pick up the cakes. And I had parked my car on the street, walked up to the house. The dog Lance was sitting there, and I said, "Hey, Lance." Lance
the dog
ran
was
off.
sitting where?
Sitting on the front porch, right by her front door.
Had you gone to her house before?
I had. I'd gone and played spades there with some friends before.
And when you went there, the dog was there?
Yes. Usually the dog would be in another room or on the back porch.
This time the dog was chained on the front porch?
Yes.
And you had made arrangements to pick up your cakes?
Right. I had told Tammy that I was going to be over there sometime between 4 and 6 on Friday to pick them up because I
What
had
time
to take
did you
them
get
to the
there?
party. I believe it was between 4 and 4:30.
And tell me where the dog bit you.
The dog bit me 3 times on my legs and then left a deep scratch on my thigh.
What kind of a dog is this?
According to the animal control report, it is a lab corgi mix.
Can I see
Yes.
the report?
I don't know anything about dogs, really.
I also have a picture of my dog, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a picture, please.
He's the beige one right there.
Thank you. Okay. This happened on the
21st of March.
1st of March, and your dog was impounded on the 24th?
Yes, Your Honor. They put him in dog jail.
In dog jail?
Dog jail, yes, Your Honor.
For how long?
He was in dog jail for 10 days. I had to pay $98 to get him out. In the state of North Carolina, you have to, if a dog bites someone, even if it's on your own property, the dog's leashed up, you have to put him in quarantine for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's partly her fault, Your Honor, because she's been
Now you're going to tell me how it's her fault.
Because she's been in my house before, and she's been there a couple of times. Lance on the front porch, he's barking. She has to toot the horn. I had to go get Lance and put him on the back porch. But this time, Your Honor, I heard the dog barking, but I was in the restroom. When I came outside, she was standing there, and she said Lance had bitten her. I said, well, Natalie, why did you keep approaching a dog that's barking? Because the dog, he hasn't bitten anyone before, but he does bark at people. He has an aggressive nature.
Miss Bell, you said a few things that are interesting. So we're going to go back to you and your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you bake cakes for a living?
Part-time, yes, ma'am.
So when Miss Spring was coming to your home to pick up the cakes, she was a customer?
Yes, Your Honor. She came early, as she said.
No,
stated.
she told you she was coming between 4 and 6. And
Yes,
she
Your
got
Honor.
there between 4 and 4:30, which is between 4 and 6.
And she got there about 3:30 to be exact. She got there real early.
Okay. So you have a dog that you say has an aggressive nature.
Yes, Your
That's
Honor.
what you said. You do have a back porch.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the dog, you say, is usually on the back porch because of the dog's aggressive nature when you have people coming over.
Yes, I put him on the back porch, yes.
And it would have been the smart thing to do, knowing that Miss Spring was coming over, to put the dog on the back porch, knowing the dog has an aggressive nature, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You chose not to do that. Do you think that Miss Spring is dumb enough to walk into a situation where she knows she's going to be bitten by a large dog?
No, he's not large. He's a short dog. He's about this tall and that long. He's very
Does a
short
dog weigh more than 30 pounds?
He's right at 45 pounds.
Well, that's more than 30.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is a large enough dog to cause damage. I mean,
Yes.
a dog that's 45 pounds can kill a child.
Yes, Your Honor.
What would happen if a child who's 5 years old that weighs 30 pounds comes up to your front porch to pet the dog. And the dog starts barking, and the child doesn't stop, and your dog kills that child. Do you think that you're responsible or the 5-year-old is responsible?
That's a tough question.
It's not a tough question at all, madam. If you know that you have a dog that has an aggressive nature, it is your responsibility to ensure that that dog is not in a position to hurt anybody. And if you invite people to come to your home, and what the person has to do is to get by an aggressive animal, it's your responsibility.
Well, Your Honor, she's been there before, as I understand. She has tooted the horn and said, Tammy, put the dog up, and that's what I've done.
Your Honor,
this time, she didn't do that. I don't know why she's been in my house. It's not like she has not been in my house. So you think
she let me ask you this question. You think she wanted the dog to bite her so that she could sue you? Is that what you think?
I'm not sure what she was thinking on that day.
Well, what were you thinking of when you left your aggressive dog chained on the front porch when you were expecting a customer?
She came 30 minutes early.
So she came 30 minutes early. That's a possibility.
Your Honor, I was planning to put the dog up at 4 o'clock.
You should have put the dog up at 3:30. Because if you were afraid that your dog is too aggressive to be on the front porch at 4 o'clock, you should have gotten the dog off the front porch, period. And I don't see why you keep an aggressive dog anyway.
Because he's a good dog. The neighborhood is not so nice, and so you need to be aware if someone's going to approach you and try to harm you. That's the first time he's ever bitten anybody.
Well, it's going to be an expensive time, madam. Do you have the bills for your medical care?
I have the receipt from the prescription, the visit to urgent care, and then also the ACE bandages that I had to get.
Can I see them, please? Do you have any scars left?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2
Can
scars.
I see?
Yeah. Do I just step up? I have one right there on my knee, and then one right there.
So the dog went after both legs?
Yes. Yes. There was another bite on my right leg, but it didn't leave a scar.
What happened after the dog bit you?
After the dog bit me, I was screaming. And where Tammy said that I usually honk the horn, I'd never honked the horn when I'd gone to Tammy's house. And
that's not true, Your
the
Honor.
dog was sitting on the front porch. The dog wasn't barking. If Lance had been barking, I wouldn't have walked up to Lance. I said, "Hey, Lance," and he rushed at me and bit me. So I started screaming, yelling for Tammy, yelling for her roommate, and they came out. And I had gotten away from the dog at this point, and he was pulling on his chain really tight, like he was going to get it loose again. Tammy came out, took him inside. I'm bleeding on her driveway, and tell her, like, we need to do something because the bites weren't stopping bleeding.
What happened next?
Tammy drove my car and took me over to the urgent care about 2 or 3 miles away and sat with me at the urgent care. And then after I was seen and they dressed the wounds, she took me back over to her house. And in the car, she said, send me the bill for your pants that he ripped, for the medicine, all that. And then she showed me a place on her arm and said her uncle's dog had bitten her before. And so she knew how bad it was and how much it was going to hurt and all of that. So
she did the appropriate thing.
Yes, then she did.
Well, what made her change her mind? Did she tell you?
No, I called Tammy after I got the submission from my insurance company, and I couldn't get a hold of her on the phone. So I sent her an email. She didn't respond to my email. So then I sent her a certified letter, and she didn't respond to the certified letter either.
How come you didn't respond?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. I told Natalie that they had quarantined my dog, and I had to pay $98. So therefore, I think the $98 should be applied to her medical bill, because that was the cost that, that was unfair, because the dog has all his shots. He was leashed to his own yard. I didn't think he would bite anybody, but he did. And, it was an unfortunate accident.
Well, let me ask you this question. You said you lived in a neighborhood that wasn't so good and you needed a dog there for your protection. What did you think that your dog was going to do if somebody tried to break into your house? You thought they was going to jump up and kiss him on the lips? What did you think your dog was supposed to do? And you kept your dog on the back porch because your dog was aggressive. What did you think your dog was going to do?
I only put the dog on the back porch when people came over. It was a very unfortunate accident, Your Honor.
It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident. It was unfortunate, that's true. But the only one that could have avoided the unfortunate circumstance is you. If you have an aggressive dog, you invite people to your home. You have to ensure that the dog's not in a position to hurt them. You invited her to your home. Yes. She came to pick up merchandise that you had prepared for her. You should have ensured that your aggressive dog was not in a position where he could have hurt her. He hurt her, you're responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She knows I have an aggressive dog, and I had to put the dog on the back porch when she comes over, so it's not like the first time she's been there.
I knew that the dog barked, but I didn't know that the dog was going to attack me, bite me 4 times, and leave me bleeding on her driveway.
I was in shock because that's the first time I ever bit somebody. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he actually bit someone.
I have 2 scars on my legs now from this dog bite.
No hard feelings. I love everybody.
Dogs are evil. Get a cat.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Frederick versus Franks. Step forward.
23-year-old student Pamela Frederick is suing her ex-boyfriend, bartender Christopher Franks, for several unpaid loans. Pamela says Christopher signed an IOU.
Ms. Frederick, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for about a year or so, owed you several $1,000s, that it accumulated over the entire time you were together. You kept very careful track of that money because you are very efficient. And at the time that you and the defendant broke up, he signed an IOU, which he has not honored. Now, Mr. Franks says that all the money that you gave him were in the form of
a gift,
and that he acknowledges he signed this promissory note, but says he was very, 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 very
intoxicated,
and doesn't really know what he was signing. So what evening was it, sir, that you signed this note?
It was a Thursday night.
And you remember it was a Thursday because?
I usually go up to my place of business to watch Friends. It was showing the last the episodes of Friends, so we'd go up there and watch it with some girlfriends of mine.
This is how you gauge your life?
No, well, it was better than staying at home.
So you were going up to watch Friends on Thursday night?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you, in fact, go up to watch this episode of Friends with your friends?
Yes, I did.
What time did you get home?
I want to believe maybe 11:30.
Well, I wasn't there, so you have to tell me.
It was around 11:30.
Did you drive home?
Yes, I did.
When did you start to drink?
Probably around 8 o'clock.
8 p.m. you started to drink. And how far away is the home where you watched Friends with your friends?
It was at my bar that I work at. I probably lived maybe 2 miles away from my apartment.
Were you working that evening?
No, ma'am, I was not.
You were just watching TV and drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
From 8 to 11?
Yes, ma'am.
And at about 11 o'clock or 11:15, you got into your car to drive home?
Yes, ma'am.
Drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's about 2-mile drive?
Exactly.
Is this a country road or city road?
It's city.
Were there traffic lights?
Yes, there were.
Just stop at the lights?
I stopped at every single one.
Did you?
Yes.
So you were conscious enough to stop at every single light?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? And conscious enough to know that you weren't going to go 100 miles an hour?
Exactly.
You didn't hit anybody?
I hope not.
Good. And the car got home in one piece?
Exactly.
And what happened when you got home, Mr. Franks?
I got home to a very upset girlfriend at the time.
Okay, and she was fighting, according to you, she was fighting and kicking and annoying you and whatever,
Yes.
being physical. Then what happened?
I walked upstairs to go to bed, and she would not let me into the other bedroom until I signed this sheet of paper. I had no idea what it was.
Just a minute. Well, what did she say to you?
Said that this is what she has written up for me on the account of how much money I owe her.
Okay, so she told you that?
Exactly.
So that you knew what the paper was?
I had no idea.
Well, you may not have known how much it was, sir, but you knew what it was.
Exactly.
So then you signed the note.
And then I signed the note, and I called one of the girlfriends that I was watching Friends with, and I was going over to her house because I couldn't, she was yelling and kicking and screaming at me.
Okay. So you called another girl to come pick you up?
No, I was going to go over to her place.
Did you do that?
I did. I went halfway over there, and I turned back around and realized that I needed to go back to my apartment.
Why did you decide you wanted to go back home?
Because I didn't want to have to go back tomorrow morning with her being upset with me at the time.
So
I thought I'd kind of smooth things over if I went back.
So you went back, and what happened?
Things got worse.
Fighting, arguing?
Exactly.
Did you leave again?
No, I didn't. I stayed there. I stuck it out.
Okay. And where did you sleep?
I slept in the bed with her.
Together?
Exactly.
On your side and on her side?
I tried to stay as far on my side.
Okay. But you went to sleep?
Yes, ma'am.
Woke up the next morning?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do the next morning?
We got in another argument over the sheet of paper.
Well, tell me about the argument, sir.
I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I wadded it up. I was upset because I was
You
intoxicated.
wadded it up?
I wadded my copy up.
Was there a carbon in it? Or
No,
did
ma'am.
you sign 2 copies?
Apparently it was her copy. I never signed my copy.
So she has the signed copy.
Exactly.
And tell me about the argument.
It was to strengthen our relationship at the time. We were supposed to break up, or not break up, but I was going to move out and get another apartment so we can kind of rebuild on our relationship. That's what I wanted her to believe at the time. I wanted to get out of the relationship. So when I finally found a new apartment, that was it.
Okay. So you just wanted a little breathing time.
Exactly. It was 1 week.
And you wanted her to rip up the thing that you signed the night before.
I didn't really care what she did with that.
Oh, good. Now, may I see it, please?
This is the original one, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Mr. Franks, I've compared your signature on this document, this note, to the signature on your answer. They are the same. The only thing that I have to consider is whether or not, according to your voluntary intoxication, vitiated your consent so that you had no idea what you were doing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's see. You were drinking from 8 to 11 at a bar with friends, watching Friends.
Exactly.
That you got into your car and drove home 2 miles in the city with the cognitive ability to stop at every stoplight, not speeding, not having any problem with your car, and getting home. Having an argument with her, she handing you this note that you knew was a promissory note. And according to you, the only problem that you have with the note is that you did not read it.
Exactly.
But you had the ability to read it, sir. You're a grown-up guy. If you choose to sign a note without reading it, that doesn't vitiate your consent. That just says you were dumb. And then what you did was you decided you didn't want to deal with this at all, so you called a friend, you got into your car after you signed the note, and drove another 5 miles without having an accident, stopping at every stoplight, and then you had the cognitive ability to say, I don't want to have to deal with her when I get home tomorrow morning to get my stuff. I'm going to turn around, cool off, and see if I can go back and make nice, which you did. That all took a thought process, sir. So if what you're suggesting to me was that at the time you signed this note, you were too drunk to understand what it was that you were signing, I don't buy it. We understand each other?
I do.
You may have said, well, I don't want to be bothered with this. I'm just going to sign this note. She's never going to use it anyway. What you said to her was it'll never hold up in court. Unfortunately, sir, you are wrong. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,565. That's all.
Why does that excuse you may step out?
So I feel sorry for the next guy who dates a psycho.
It was horrible, but I'm done with it. I'm happy, actually.
That's a headache done and over with, and I'm not going to have to deal with her again.
It shouldn't have come this far.
Probably be careful on who I date next.
It was nothing against him. It was for my money.
Care.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2195, Sherrod versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Surratt, you and Mr. Vasquez were in a relationship for a period of time and have 2 children together. How old are the children?
I have a daughter that's 15 and a son that's 8.
How long did you and Mr. Vasquez live together, if you did live together?
It was a lot of off and on, so I would say maybe a combined time of 8 years.
And does your daughter enjoy a relationship with her father?
Unfortunately, no.
Is that correct?
As far as I knew, that she had a great relationship with me.
When was the last time you saw your daughter, sir?
We spoke just a couple of days ago. You know, she has more time with friends now, but I do speak with her on a frequent basis.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Why don't you wait outside? Okay? Because, Ms. Surratt, I don't believe in, unless it's absolutely necessary, and certainly in this situation, it doesn't sound to me as if it's absolutely necessary to have your teenage daughter as a witness over a couple of $1,000s, which you may or may not be entitled to. Certainly, her father is in touch with her. She said he's in touch with her, which means that they communicate and that they have a relationship. Because I read the complaint and I read the answer, and I have a few basic questions. You're suing Mr. Vasquez, who you haven't lived with in many, many years, but who you share, according to what I've read here, joint legal and physical custody. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that pursuant to a court order?
Yes.
And when was that court order made?
I have a copy of it, so I can tell you.
2011, Your Honor. 2011.
Was there a trial, Mr. Vasquez?
There was a trial.
I'd like to see a copy of that order.
It's from 2017.
Well, there was one in 2011.
This is the original one. It hasn't changed since then. We have parenting and legal custody, and a child support order, which is separate.
Oh, so the 2016 order, the ex parte order, originally granted Mr. Vasquez custody of the children. Yes, you were the respondent in that case.
said on October 28, 2016, petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, filed a motion to establish custody and parenting time. The petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, seeks joint legal and physical custody. The petitioner also sought an order granting sole legal custody of the children based upon the allegations that his daughter was watching his son without supervision for extended periods of time and that his daughter was not attending school. Child Protective Services did an investigation and actually found that you were not sending your daughter to school.
Correct.
And she was staying home and she was babysitting. Okay. Would you tell me, without my having to go through this whole thing, was there a child support order entered?
Yes.
Ultimately the children remained with you?
Correct.
The final order. And what was the child support order?
The child support order initially was $93 a month. I think I have a copy of it. And then to increase based off cost of living adjustments.
How much do you pay in child support now, sir?
$230 a month, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, that's not the order.
Well, I asked how much you pay. Were you ever in arrears of payment?
I was at one point, and then I caught up, so I've been caught up.
Well, they're catching up, so that $230 may be partly arrears. What is the order?
Oh, I'm completely caught up with my child support.
So the current order that you're paying is $230 a month?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. This is what you're suing for. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez agreed to pay half of certain sporting fees that the children had that are not contained in the child support order, and he didn't. So you're suing him for that, and he says that you never had such an agreement, that you enrolled the children in sporting activities, and then came to him and said, do you owe me half? Am I reading that correctly?
Your Honor, that's correct.
That's your position?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's move on to the plaintiff's position that you wanted to change the child support order to not what he was paying, but what he was paying, and half of their sporting activities.
We actually had a verbal agreement.
Well, I'd like you to tell me when that took place, what you said to him, and what he said to you. So tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably. Just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
Desiree Surratt claims her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, owes for the cost of a car and childcare. Curtis is countersuing for car repairs and vacation.
21, probably. Just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
No, in person.
At your home?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about the conversation. What did you say to him and what did he say to you?
I don't remember the exact words, but...
Well, that's why we bring these things quickly, because now it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was basically, well, he wants to play this sport, Angelina wants to do track, this is how much it's going to cost, and his response was just, okay, let me know how much it is, and I'll pay half.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not quite correct. We don't have just conversation. We don't have any conversation at all. We communicate via text, and I rarely get a response. I've taken care of...
Just a second. We're talking about this one instance.
Okay.
She said that you had a conversation with her where you agreed to pay half of their sporting events. Based on that, I assume that you enrolled the children in the sporting events, paid the fee, and then said to him, this is your half. And he said, I'm not paying that half.
That's not correct, Your Honor. I didn't agree to pay half.
No, I'm not saying you agreed to pay half. That's what her position is.
I actually enrolled my son into soccer.
When?
It was this summer in July, and he was supposed to go for a month, and she took the kids out of the state without my knowledge for an extended vacation. And so I didn't have her pay half of that, and when she came back, she wanted to make that up to him, but that's without my knowledge.
Okay. How much did you pay for reduced to a modified order of the court? Because you have a court order for support. Okay, so I'm eliminating that. You want to change the order of support, you have to change it in court. Now let's move on to the second thing that you think that he owes you for. Cell phone. Let's hear about the cell phone.
He opened a cell phone account for my daughter.
When?
I don't know when it was.
When did you open a cell phone account, sir?
About 7 years ago.
And he paid it? He opened an account and he
Either
paid it.
him or his dad. It was a business account.
I don't care.
I don't know
You
who
didn't
paid
pay
it.
it.
Correct.
You didn't pay it. So your daughter has had a cell phone for the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you didn't see the bills for it.
Correct.
Okay, so he paid it.
Somebody paid it, yes. Yeah.
He paid it.
I paid it, Your Honor.
You didn't pay it.
Correct.
Okay. So now you want money for a cell phone. For what?
Just for the last 6 months that I paid, I never agreed to, so I'm just asking for
Then
half
take
of
the
that.
phone away.
Well, she's 15, she's got
I
a
understand
job,
that.
and
I understand that. Who bought her the phone?
I bought the phone.
Okay. And how many years ago did you buy the phone?
It was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay. And it was paid for on his plan?
No, I paid for the phone cash.
No. The bills, ongoing bills, were paid for by him and the phone that you bought her 1.5 years ago, because you said you've been paying the bills for 6 months.
Yep.
Is that correct? Whitney, didn't you say I've been paying the bills for the last 6 months?
Yes. Correct.
Well, so when you first got the phone for a year, he was paying the bills.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Well, he was paying the bills for 7 years, but certainly after you bought the phone. But prior to that, she had a different phone. She had to have had a different phone because he was paying the phone bills for 6 years. Who bought that phone?
I don't know.
Your Honor, I purchased that phone. It was the iPhone XR.
Okay. So you bought the first phone, you bought a second phone. Very good order. If you agreed to do that, you agreed to do that. What are you getting courts involved for?
I never agreed to pay the cell phone.
Well, he never agreed to pay his cell phone when she was 13 or 12. Your parents. He paid it for a long time. Now you're paying it. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a realtor.
You work in a family business?
Absolutely.
Tell me about the family business.
It's children first and foremost. You know what's best for them.
No. The family business, sir.
Oh, the family business.
You're in real estate. Is it a family business?
It is not a family business.
It's just yours. And you've been in real estate for how long?
For about 3 years now. And prior to that, I was in sales. That is a family business, and it's real estate marketing.
That's a family
That's
business.
family business.
You're not involved with that
I am.
anymore. You still are.
Yes.
Who owns that business?
Dad.
Your father.
He does, yes.
How many employees do you have?
Just about 10, Your Honor.
So your father employs 10 people and you're one of them?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And what does your father pay you annually?
Oh, it's commission only, so no benefits.
And in the other real estate operation, do you have your own office or do you operate out of your father's office?
My own office.
Where?
In Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Do you have any employees?
I don't.
So you work for your father on commission and yourself?
Commission only as
Commission
well in the
only.
real estate market.
Okay. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
Is there any reason for that?
Just late. Just over.
You're late. You're a year late.
Yeah.
What about the year before? Did you file tax returns?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Your Honor. $55,000, yep.
Okay, so phone bill, I've taken care of the phone bill. You paid it for her. Fine. And if you don't want to pay it anymore, let her get an after-school job and pay for her own phone. Now, the next thing that you're suing for is, according to your complaint, you had a car that you weren't using. Mr. Vasquez has a father who wanted a car. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez, without your permission, sold the car, your car, to his father for $700, and you didn't get any of that money.
Correct.
Mr. Vasquez says his father was going to buy the car. He drove it. He didn't want to buy it because it had issues, and it's sitting in his father's driveway waiting for you to come and get it, and that he never got $700 from his father for the car. That's his position, correct?
No, there's a correction. I did get $700 and paid him back the next day because the car broke down within a day.
Because what?
It broke down within a day.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Desiree Surratt has accused her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, of selling her car without her permission. Curtis claims he refunded the money, and she can take the car back.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Is the car still titled in your name?
Yes.
So go get it.
I don't want the car, no.
Well, It's your car. It's titled in your name.
Yes, but apparently I have text messages showing.
And he's saying, you can go and get the car. It's sitting in the driveway. His father doesn't want it. Title didn't transfer. He didn't get money for the car and keep it. It was a sort of silly transaction because what you are suggesting is he should have said to his father, that's it, it's sold as is. You can't have your $700 back.
Right, and my understanding is that his dad, through a conversation that I had with his dad did not get the money back.
You can't tell me about the conversation. If you have text messages between them, I would like to see them.
I do, yes. So there's those text messages. And I also have several text messages where Curtis agrees to pay me the money and also telling me the
This
car
is
ran
Desiree.
the
Curtis said you would take possession of the Kia, but I asked about the title. Big Curtis, is that your father?
Your Honor, yes, it is.
Okie dokie. Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money.
That's correct.
And that it certainly wasn't a day, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, sorry, not good at checking my text. If we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. That's 2 weeks later. Your father didn't say to her, he gave me the money back. He said, I want the title. That's 2 weeks later. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Well, Your Honor, there's one thing that we need to clear up right away is that it was never sold without her knowledge.
Just a second. Now what I'm asking you, sir, I'm saying that your original story to me was that I sold my father the car with Whitney, that the car broke down the next day.
He said the car broke down within a day.
Within a day, and so you gave him his money back. Well, that's not what your father says here, sir. That's not what your father says here.
I went back and forth with him for days, but I gave him his money back.
No, what you told me was a lie. You told me it broke down the day you gave him his money back. The initial conversation she had was May 9th. And then May 16th, she's having a conversation with Big Curtis. That's your father. Mm-hmm. Sorry for not checking my texts. Can you get me the title? Which means 2 weeks later, he wanted the title. And then your father says about you, Curtis owes me big time money. And I can't get money from him either. That's your father.
Yeah, that's
yes.
correct, Your Honor.
Big Curtis says to her, can you tell me what problem does Curtis have that caused him to spend massive amounts of money in such a short period of time? She answers, drugs, alcohol, gambling, he's a functional addict. He even got around $40,000 and he blew every penny. So the $700 you gave him for the car, I'm just going to file a small claims. For whatever reason, he's refusing to give it to me. It's not your fault that he stole the money from me. Just FYI, I have no issue giving you the title. Okay. So far, he owes you $700 for the car. And then we're finished. Get Big Curtis the title. Mail it to him. He sends you his address.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Great. Now you have a counterclaim, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, Your Honor. I have some evidence I'd like to present.
Don't give me all that nonsense. You say that the plaintiff canceled a vacation trip. You made plane arrangements to take your children somewhere, and she took the children out of state. And I helped her repair her car and spent $250 on parts. When was that?
That was the car in question that we were just talking about.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
My parents helped me with the purchase of the kids' tickets.
Why?
Because I couldn't afford all of them.
Who was going on the trip?
It was going to be my wife, myself, and 2 kids.
Did you go on the vacation to Portugal with your wife?
No, we did not make it.
You did not make it?
Correct. Why? Because she is responsible of...
No, not her. Not with your 2 kids. Did you go with your wife?
No, I didn't.
Why?
I didn't want to go without the kids. It was the whole purpose was to bring the kids to see the grandparents.
Does your wife work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a bartender.
Mm-hmm. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. Don't make any more private agreements with him, madam. I think it's a big mistake.
I agree.
We're done. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're
Your
finished.
Honor.
Thank you.
We're finished.
I had one more.
I just ruled that your counterclaim is dismissed.
Your Honor.
You're finished. I have very little to say about that case, very little thoughts, except that Big Curtis, the defendant's father, doesn't like him.
I didn't get to read the messages, but
clearly.
I'll
He
take
said,
your
what
word
is he
for it."
doing with all the money? My initial reading of that case was, maybe she's being unreasonable. She's really not being unreasonable.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's not a lot more to little Curtis than we were able to.
During an accident.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2163, Raquel versus Talon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rocco, this is basically what the case is about. You and the defendant were in a relationship. You have one child together. And it is your claim that some 3 years ago, he took your car with your permission. You were living together at the time. He
Yes.
took your car and had an accident.
Correct, yes.
And that was 3 years ago. And you want him to pay $5,000 on a car that Sarah has already checked, which is worth...
Between $1,400 and $3,000.
Which is worth a quarter of that. Do you understand?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want you to forget about $5,000. So if he's responsible for anything for the car, he's responsible for what its value is, which is about $1,400. How long had you been living together when he borrowed the car?
About a year.
Okay. And was your child born during that time?
Yes.
What month and year was the child born?
August 2018.
When was the first time that you asked Mr. Talon for money for this car that had been in an accident?
After he was released from jail, he got arrested from a previous warrant at the scene of the accident, directly from the hospital. So when he was released from jail.
What was the date of the accident?
April 30th, 2019.
And how long were you held in jail, sir?
I believe June 11th or so, roughly almost 6 weeks.
What was the warrant for?
Domestic battery.
Against whom?
Against Eve.
Against her?
Against Eve. Yes, against her.
Well, you were living together. Did you file another complaint after the accident?
No, I didn't. There was a warrant from the initial complaint.
And what year was that?
That was...
Withdraw that case.
I did withdraw it. I didn't realize that a warrant had been released until it was acted upon.
Well, when he was arrested and he was held in jail, he contacted you, correct?
Yes.
Of course he did, because he said, what's going on? We're living together. We have a child. What's this warrant for domestic battery?
It just took time for me to get it dismissed.
No. What I'm asking you is, he contacted you.
Yes.
And when he was released in June of 2019, where did he go to live?
He came back.
For what period of time?
About a month, maybe 2 months at the most.
And you lived together as a couple with the baby?
Yes.
And how old was the baby at the time?
He would have been about between 6 and 8 months off the top of my head.
And the two of you cared for him?
Yes.
And during that 2 or 3 month period, there was no discussion that you have in writing about paying back for the car?
Not in writing.
Not in writing?
Yeah.
Now, what happened after the 2 months?
He began exhibiting behaviors that were the behaviors of somebody who was using drugs. Again, he was clean for a long period of time, and his attitude changed, his behaviors changed, and I decided that it was time for him to go back to his mother's house.
And he did?
Correct, yes.
It was after a couple of months?
Yes.
So that would have been in maybe August or September. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in August or September. Did he continue to see his son?
For them to visit.
And how long did you do that?
Up until recently. We're pretty much...
Recently, so you're talking about 19, 20, 21?
Yes.
Right? And
there was a period of time where, because he was living with his mother at first, there was a period of time where I didn't know where he was living. It made me uncomfortable that I was bringing my son, even though they were visiting at his mother's house. It made me uncomfortable that he wouldn't let me know an address for him, just in case anything happened, just in case, anything happened, basically. He didn't give me an address for me to find him or for me to know where Eden might be if anything were to happen.
So what I'm getting is, for 3 years after this accident, there was no request that you can demonstrate. Now, you weren't together, certainly, so for the last 2 years, you never went and filed claiming that he owed you money for the car.
So I did. Sorry.
Is that correct?
No, I did attempt to file several times, but I didn't have an address for him. I tried to file once for an address where he was at his mother's.
Do you have any proof of that?
I do not.
No. You continued to bring your son for visitation with his father.
Correct.
Which is a very easy thing to do. You're a smart enough gal. I'm gathering that. You bring a friend, you serve him personally with a summons and complaint. So the answer is for 3 years you did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car.
Eve Rockhill claims her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, owes for totaling her car. Andrew is countersuing for emotional distress and attorney fees after Eve took their son.
Okay. You did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car. Now, Mr. Talon says in his cross-complaint that there came a time when you left the state, the jurisdiction, that was the child's home state.
Yes.
And when did you leave the jurisdiction?
That was in September of 2021.
And you went from where to where?
We went from Florida. We stopped in South Carolina for a period of time. We had a little vacation before we had to go, because we were going to work. We were going to clear a property out for sale.
So you left the jurisdiction with the child?
Yes.
Prior to that, Mr. Talon had been seeing the child regularly at his mother's house?
Yes.
Did you tell him you were leaving?
Yes.
What did he say when you told him you were leaving?
He didn't really say anything. He just wanted to spend time with him, which he was, you know, they did spend time together before we left.
Not before. After you left, you moved to New Jersey.
I didn't move. I didn't move to New Jersey.
What did you do?
So, like I said, we went there to liquidate a house that we have there. It took longer than expected.
How long?
It took about 5 months, 6 months. Things happened with the closing. Deals were made and fell through.
How long did you tell him you were going to be away?
I was only supposed to be away for 2 weeks.
That's a big deal, Miss Rockhill. That's a big deal.
It is.
Because if he says, I'm taking Eden for a 2-week vacation, if that's okay. I know you took him away. I'd like to take him away for a 2-week holiday, and he goes away for 6 months. You wouldn't like that. Not equally when they have a child. If you said to him, I'm going away for 6 months, and he said, okay, well, then you agree to. But you said, we'll be away for 2 weeks. And it lasted longer.
Yes,
and during the time that it lasted longer, about 6 months longer than it was supposed to, what arrangements did you make for your son to see his father?
They had video calls regularly. I told him I would be back as soon as I could.
Just a second. So the answer is, you did not make any, because he has a counterclaim here.
Yes.
And his counterclaim is for the fact that you took the child out of the jurisdiction and deprived him of the ability to see the child. Subsequently, due to circumstances, and I'm not sure what that is, the child is no longer in your custody.
Temporary.
The child is no longer in your custody. The child is in the physical custody of the paternal grandmother. Is that correct? And that is by court order?
Yes.
The beginning of that process was made in what month and year?
July of 2022.
Was that a child protective proceeding?
It was, yes.
And I assume that if there was a child protective proceeding, that the court found that based upon whatever was alleged in the petition that was not brought by him, but by the Department of Social Services or Child Welfare Administration, they found that the child would be at risk in your custody.
Yes.
And as a result of that, they took the child into care. And this is all stuff, because I've been here. This is my bread and butter. Instead of placing the child in a strange foster home, they placed the child with the defendant's mother.
Correct.
For how long a period? 18 months?
Indefinite. There's no specified period of time. However,
well, if the court is placing a child through the state, unless you relinquish your parental rights, did you do that?
No, I didn't.
To see whether either one of you, as parents, are ready to assume custody of the child, right? So when is this case going to be reviewed?
I believe the next review is in February.
February of this year?
This year, correct, yes.
That's a reasonable answer, so that you do know. So that's the change in circumstance. Now, getting back, Miss Rockhill, to what motivated you after 3 years, after you gave him permission to drive the car and he had an accident, and you made up this whole baloney story in your complaint that says, police arrested Andrew at the scene of the accident because I had previously filed a domestic abuse charge against him and there was a warrant. But you were living together during the time that there was this outstanding warrant. You were living together and conceived a child with him.
The child was already conceived. He was already born at the time of the domestic violence altercation. He was about
2018?
In the end of 2018, yes. He was born in August. The altercation happened in November. So he was very young.
But you reunited and were living together with him as a family.
Yes.
Right. The police arrested Andrew Ben on a domestic abuse charge, and there was a warrant. When Andrew was released from jail, he disappeared.
So
that's what, just a second. That's what you say here. He disappeared. My car was fully paid off and I had no liability insurance. Andrew refused to pay for my total car and he refused to see our son. He moved and went into hiding. That's what you signed. That's your complaint. You knew exactly where he was until you moved out of the jurisdiction to New Jersey for 6 months because he had been regularly seeing his son at his mother's house.
But he wasn't living at his mother's house.
It doesn't make any difference. That's not what you say here. He may not have been living there. He may not have wanted you to know where he was living.
He didn't, and that's
well,
why. So I
that's
filed
okay.
Against
he doesn't have to tell you where he's living. Unless a judge orders him, he doesn't have to tell you where he's living. You were having visitation at his mother's house. So all of this stuff after the accident is all a bunch of baloney.
Eve Rockhill has accused her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, of totaling her car. Andrew claims Eve kept him from seeing their son.
You knew exactly where he was until you moved.
I didn't, though. He was not living at his mother's house at the time. That was just a place that he was visiting with Eden that I would bring him to.
Perfect. So you would set the terms of that, and the terms were that he could see the child even without a court order because he was his father and had lived with him after he got out of jail.
Yes.
Lived with him, but you don't say here, after he got out of jail.
But I didn't put that.
I don't think you have a case. He drove the car with your permission. You were living together as a couple. You have a child together. Your case is dismissed. Now, I want you to tell me, sir, you have a counterclaim for her kidnapping your son. She left the jurisdiction. You called Child Protective Services.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me when you called Child Protective Services, because that's the reason that this lawsuit came about.
The last time I saw him before she left to stay with him was September 19th. Me and my family, we went to SeaWorld, and she was supposed to meet me. She said when we dropped off that she was going to meet me in Tampa. And when I called her, she said that she was in Jacksonville. She lives in Ocala, so she was still 2 hours northeast of where she lived, and she wasn't in Tampa, so I just decided just to take him home rather than argue. I took him home, and troubling.
Was there a neglect proceeding?
For this?
The baby.
I had an interview with the caseworker or the investigator initially.
Were you there in court when your mother was granted? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Miss Rockhill?
Yes, she was there too.
You see your son regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
So the period of time when you did not see him was a 6-month period, is that right?
That was the second time. Yeah, it happened the year prior. She did it before too, where she removed him from school. Since I moved home in 2019, we've shared custody periodically until she decides that she wants to take him and not allow me to see him or for whatever. I think it's a control thing, and this was the second time. My counterclaim is for the second time.
How long was the first time?
Roughly the same time, 5 months, 6 months.
Where did you go the first time?
I didn't go anywhere. I actually received a text from his mother, Angel, to come pick up Eden. Andrew was using drugs again, and come pick up Eden would be easiest to do it while he was at school to avoid potentially traumatizing Eden.
Did you send that email?
I did not send her an email, no.
Not a text message.
I sent her a text message.
Okay, just a second. You're his mother. Come. You sent her a text message. That's not something that she would make up because I'm going to ask to see it. She's going to show me. So did there come a time when you were concerned that your son was using drugs? That's either a yes or a no. Yes. And was it at that time that you suggested she come and pick up Eden?
I told her to pick him up from school. I didn't tell her to come pick up Eden and take off for 5 months.
I didn't lived the entire time. He could have come up and seen him. We could have met somewhere. I
don't know. You did, in fact, remove him the second time for 6 months.
The second time, yes. I not purposefully to keep him away from Andrew. We had business to attend to, and it ended up taking a lot longer than it
Now you see him.
should have.
Now you see him all the time. Is that right?
I live back at home again. Once this happened, because...
Just a second. So you live back at home with your mother?
Yes, I see him every day.
Since when?
I've been living back at home for, I think, roughly a month or so.
Where are you working?
I work for a solar company.
For how long?
I went to jail for DUI last year. I got out. That's why I'm having to do the case plan because of my DUI. That was in August 1st is when I started this job.
Okay, you working?
I am, yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dental assistant.
Did you have a trial in the family court?
Not yet. We're still awaiting adjudication.
A full custody?
Yes.
But the child is with you under the auspices of Child Protective Services?
Yes, her trial is the 13th of February.
For the neglect case?
Yes.
Is that correct? You have a lawyer there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Your case against the respondent for the damage to the car 3 years ago is dismissed. Likewise is your action against her for attorney's fees, the custody. Are you appearing in that custody case?
I'm almost complete with my case plan. I will be there for that. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So I suggest we not say anything nasty about each other,
Yes, ma'am.
because there is always that strong probability that you're going to have to co-parent this child.
It's never been a problem in the past.
Good. Very good. Case is dismissed.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't want to be a part of his life. I want him to have a part of his child's life, as I always have and have always done my best to make sure that he has.
I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think she was just, maybe it was just
Expecting.
I feel like sometimes our son was used in a way to hurt me.
Things happened with the sale of the house and the closing of the house. Deals were dropped. We were just trying to get rid of it, and it took longer than expected.
It's hard to see the fighting and the, just the separation of the family.
I was just worried. I was in mom mode, and I was worried because I know what he's capable of. I've been exposed to him while he was exhibiting behaviors that would be damaging and traumatizing to Eden.
This is my past. I mean, it's true. I'm not the same person, but
I just want to be the best parent I can be.
I hope we can parent our son together.
Sarah, there are lots of tentacles in that case.
There were?
Yeah. But if you try to take all those tentacles that we really don't have jurisdiction over, I think that they said that custody is ongoing. If you remove all those tentacles, there was an accident 3 years ago. And despite the fact that she really knew where he was, where he could be served, because she regularly brought the child over to him, and he said that for a good part of that time she had 50-50 custody. She was perfectly comfortable with Eden staying with his paternal grandmother. Case was really about this car.
Yeah.
And he had an accident 3 years ago. They lived together, they slept together, they shared a child together. And now that he notified Child Protective Services of what he saw when he brought the child home, and she physically lost custody after an investigation, that's the motivation for filing this now.
For damages from an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2122, Wheat Shilling Hensley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wheat, it is your claim that the defendants assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is what I gather from reading your complaint. On August 10th of this year, your cat was injured. How was your cat injured?
That I don't know. The morning of August 10th, I had let him outside. When he came back in, he was acting peculiar. I picked him up and noticed that he had 2 long, deep gashes on between his chest and his stomach.
At what time was this?
Approximately 10:45, 10:30.
And the defendants work at the vet where you have taken the cat before.
Not this particular cat. I have 3 cats total, and I had good service from them, so naturally I went back.
They work at a vet where you had taken an animal, maybe not this one, before.
Correct.
So at that time you put the cat in the car and drove over to where the vet's office is.
Yes.
And during that time, they had a COVID protocol in the vet's office. And the protocol, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I've taken my pets to the vet during COVID. You get to the parking lot, you call, they come out, they check in the animal and what's wrong. And then they come out when someone is ready to see the animal. They bring them inside. You do not come into the office. Is that your protocol?
Correct.
Is that your COVID protocol? Well, it was in a couple of vets where I took our dogs. Were you aware of that protocol?
No, Your Honor, not at all.
So tell me, what happened when you got to the vet's office? Is there a parking lot?
There is. There was one other vehicle there. It was pulled up in the front of the door, the very first spot.
The papers indicate that there is a chart or a video of the parking lot. Is that correct?
We drew a diagram that they based that on.
Okay. So that would be a fair representation, sir, of the vet clinic, and there are parking spaces in front of it?
I believe so, yes.
Where did you park? Yes, please.
My car, I'm assuming at this point, the main door is approximately over here.
Okay.
There was the vehicle that I was mentioning is parked here, and I was parked here.
Okay, but you were parked right in front.
Yes.
Okay, is that right?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so what happened when you got there?
Well, I walked around the back of the car, got the cat out. He was the younger of the two. She was already out front with a...
You mean the young lady in the blue sweater?
Yes.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
You're
Your
looking
Honor.
over there. What is your last name?
Hensley.
Miss Hensley.
She was already outside with a customer at
Your
that
Honor,
point.
that was, it wasn't me.
Don't speak. Okay, so you say Miss Hensley was already outside
Well,
with another patient.
I thought it was Miss Hensley. It could have been another lady that worked there, but it was similar in youth and...
Okay, so somebody came out and was talking to another
They were
patient.
already there, and so they stopped me. I was proceeding up to the door, and I, like I say, I have pictures of the signage that they have. So you can't read the signage until you get right up on top of it.
Okay, so you went to the door, and what happened?
I went to go in, and I was stopped.
By whom?
The lady that was outside.
Okay, and the person who was outside stopped you?
And said that you couldn't go in, so I stopped. I told him that it was an emergency, that my cat was injured.
You told the lady outside?
That was outside, absolutely. Told him that he was injured and that he needed to see somebody immediately, the vet. And they suggested that I needed to call, and I couldn't understand that because I was already there. I said, "Can't you just go inside and let him know that I was here?" That seemed reasonable to me.
What they told you was to get back into your car with the cat and call the...
No.
Or just call?
Just call. So I said,
So
well,
she was talking to the person who I assume was a female, because you say Miss Hensley or someone resembling her. They were taking care of another patient that was outside.
yeah, when they stopped me before I got...
And said, stop.
Correct.
Call, right?
Correct.
And you were upset, and you said, well, why can't you just go inside and tell them that I'm here?
Yeah,
Well, because she was with somebody else.
Well, it appeared to me that they were done.
Okay, I don't care what appeared to you.
yes.
She was outside with somebody else. She told you to call. What happened next?
Well, I set the cat down, and I actually sat on the concrete and waited. That person had...
Waited for what?
That person left. As soon as they got done talking with me, they went into the building. So, and I waited about 5 minutes. And then I guess it was Miss Hensley now. She came out and asked me now if I hadn't, at that time, that there was no vet on duty. And so then that's when I got up. I was upset. I said that I needed to leave. I did use an explicitive.
What did you say?
Well, I said that I needed to get out of there so I could get some help.
Okay.
And then I picked up my cat and the carrier, and I was proceeding to leave.
And?
That's when the other plaintiff,
Miss
or the other
Schilling came
defendant
out?
and she confronted me, and she started into a huge rant about how she wasn't going to stand there and listen to this or whatever.
Were you shouting at Miss Hensley?
No.
No. She told you that there was no vet on duty.
Right.
And you got up and you said, I'm going to get the whip out of here.
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that I had waited 5 minutes, I was, it was upsetting. So then when she
Miss Schilling came out and?
She started into a huge rant.
What did she say? A rant is a conclusion. What did she say?
Well, she had her voice raised. She was shouting at me.
What did she say?
She said that she wasn't going to stand there and let me say things to this other woman. So then I just looked at her and I told her basically to shut up. So
is that what you said to her?
I told her to shut up.
Okay, so you again used an expletive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no reason for
She said,
okay.
I'm just asking you what happened.
Yes.
So you told her to shut up.
I did.
And?
That's when she came over. She was probably about 3 foot away, and she stepped right over into me, and she put her body on mine. So she stepped right into me, pushed me back with her body, and she told me, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not intimidated by you. And I told her, don't touch me. Get off of me. And I told her twice, and she never moved. I put my cat down, and I moved her off of me.
What do you mean? I
pushed her back off of me.
You put your hands on her.
She was already on me.
How was she on you, sir? What physical part of the defendant?
Her chest, her entire body was leaning on me at that point. She body checked me.
I'd like you to go over there and show me where Miss Schilling came out and where the three of you were standing.
Okay, I have pictures as well.
Okay.
So here being the front door.
Yeah, right.
And then she moved over to me, and put her body on mine.
When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving.
Well, when she came out, why didn't you just go into your car?
No, the first lady that I encountered never told me there was no vet.
No. I understand that. When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving. I had picked up my cat and literally was walking away. I had walked from here to approximately here. In that meantime, she came out, and I had my back to her at first, and she started to yell.
No, he wasn't. He was yelling in my face.
Just a second. I'm going to let you have a turn as soon as he's finished. Go ahead.
She started to yell at me, and that's when I told her.
Okay, go back.
Thank you.
And then what happened? So now she put her body on you. You put both hands on her and pushed her back.
To push her off me.
And then what happened?
Then she struck me.
How did she strike you?
With her open hand.
Where did she strike you?
On my face.
Okay, when you pushed her, she slapped you.
She did.
And next?
And then the other one slapped me. She reached over her shoulder and slapped me.
Okay, on the face.
On the face.
And then?
And then we started to argue, and it was just yelling back and forth. And then the gentleman came out of the vehicle that was parked in that first spot, and he kind of diffused the engagement, and that's when she told me, just leave. I felt safe enough to turn at that point, and I went and put my cat back in the car, and that's when the lady in the blue ran behind my car, said, don't let him leave, ran behind my car and placed her body on my car.
And
then that's when I told her, I said, you can't detain me here. I'm going to take my cat to someplace where I can get him some medical. And I moved her away from my car.
How did you move her away?
With my hands.
So you...
Open hands.
Okay.
That's when she turned and struck me with her fist, broke my glasses, gave me a black eye. I was defending myself at that point. I had my hands up. I'm all cut up on this. And then that's when I finally grabbed her by her hair and pulled her off of me.
Which one did you grab by the hair?
The brunette.
What was he saying to you?
I don't remember exactly what he was saying. It was really scary, that's all I know.
John Wheat claims vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley owe for damages after he was assaulted in the parking lot.
Okay, now prior to her going behind your car, you had no physical interaction with her.
Other than her hitting me.
She slapped you.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, Miss Hensley, you came out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for the vet?
I am a vet assistant.
And how long have you worked for the vet?
Like a year and a half.
So you've been working for the vet all during COVID?
Yes.
Is this the first incident that you had while you've been working at this vet?
Yes.
How long have you been working at the vet?
10 years now.
Have you ever had another incident like this, either during COVID or before?
Not like this, Your Honor. I've had to call the police before. We've had threats. We've had people shouting. Of course, animals bring out emotions, but never has anything ever been physical.
Did you know Mr. Wheat from prior visits with other cats?
I did not. I do know that we had seen one cat once before, and that actually was during COVID.
During COVID?
Yes.
So you checked, and it was the same COVID protocol?
Yes.
Leaving one?
We've had the same protocol since COVID started.
Okay. So the last time you took a cat there, you were familiar with the COVID protocol. Though, just think about what you're saying to me.
Okay.
The last time you took a cat there was during COVID, so you were familiar with the COVID protocol.
I believe I might have called before I went there.
And you waited in the parking lot. Somebody came out, took the cat inside.
I believe so.
And that's the protocol. And the reason that you didn't do that this time is because you felt as if it was an emergency.
Yeah, I was not aware of any protocol.
Yes, you were.
No.
Oh, yes, of course you were. Of course you were aware of a protocol, sir. The woman outside told you that there was a protocol. She said you have to call first. And she was speaking to somebody out in the parking lot. You know, you've had animals for a long time. When I go to the vet, there usually isn't somebody out in the parking lot. So you know that there's a protocol because you know that somebody else was out there talking to a patient and said to you, you have to call first.
After? Yes.
And said to you, you have to call first. Okay. Now, you want to tell me what happened when you first interacted with him?
Yes, so he was sitting outside, and so I went out and told him that he would have to call to check in, that we were curbside, and he said that he wasn't calling anybody. And I told him that I was very sorry, that I wanted to see a doctor then. And I was like, we cannot do that. And so then I asked him, did he have an appointment with us? Like, what's the cat's name? I'm not even sure, what we're dealing with here. I need to get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I think he said the names of the cat was Pebbles. I don't even know. I'm not sure. But I asked if he had an appointment. He said no. And then I asked him what was wrong. And he said, the cat's bleeding out. She's dying. Something along the lines of that. Screamed at my face. And so I said, sir, I'm so sorry. You need to go to an emergency clinic. We don't have a vet today. And so then he started screaming in my face, got up, screaming in my face,
Was there a vet there that
No,
day?
we were doing tech appointments that day, so just like nail trims, things like that, things that we can do without doctor.
So there was no vet there?
Yeah, there was no vet.
So you told him you have to go to an emergency room?
Yes.
And when you said there was some shouting, what was he saying to you?
He was basically saying...
No, not basically.
It happened a long time ago, so honestly, I don't remember the exact words.
Okay, so you don't remember exactly what he said to you. He was angry. Okay, he sort of acknowledges that he was angry. Then what happened?
I'm sorry, it's a lot. Reliving it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He started screaming in my face that we weren't helping and that he would be leaving, but he just was still screaming in my face. And I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. I don't remember exactly what he was saying.
Just take a minute.
It was really scary. That's all I know. And I told him that he needed to leave, and he wasn't. And that's when Heather finally came out and told him that he needed to leave. She got in between us and was like, sir, you need to leave now. And she just kept saying, you need to leave now. And he kept screaming in our faces. And she was like, I'm not going to have you screaming at my girls. That's what he's referring to when she got into his face. She said she did step into his face to push him away because he needed to leave. And she said, you're not going to be screaming at my girls. He still was being belligerent, not leaving.
And at that point, that's when he spit in my face. And that's what caused me to shove him.
And then
so
he
when you said, so we'll stop for a second. You came outside because you heard an altercation outside.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when you came outside.
I was not going to have him talking to my girls like that. That wasn't appropriate. He needed to leave. And he was still shouting, and then that's when he spit in my face. And then I did push him away to get back from me, and he stepped forward. I did smack him with an open hand, and then he pushed me. And what he's leaving out is he actually grabbed my scrub top, and he was pulling on my scrub top, and that's why Hannah had stepped back in. She tried to get his arm off, which probably is where the scratches came from, and he grabbed her scrub top at the same time. So there was more contact than...
Where was the cat?
The cat was actually behind me. He had left the cat there.
Sounds like a little bit more, Mr. Wheat, than what you told me in your narrative.
They're lying. First off, she said that when she just admitted to the fact that she told me that I needed to call. And that's what the first thing I said when I came and pulled up is that the person that I met outside at the very beginning told me that I needed to call.
Yes.
And she just said that she told me I needed to call. There would have been no reason for the second person to come out and tell me that I needed to call. At that point, they came out and told me, asked me if I had an appointment, and I said no, that it was an emergency. And I had my cat the entire time with me until I put him down in order to push her off of me. That's the only time I put my cat down, and he was next to me the whole time. I would not have left my cat between her and me.
Mr. Wheat, these people have been in business for a very long time. Is it just possible, sir, that because of the circumstances, and you were there with a cat who was bleeding out, that you were high energy and maybe not totally composed? I mean, I have two people who work here, at least one who's worked for the same vet for 10 years. You've used this vet before. You haven't had problem with this vet before, and she's been there 10 years. And I assume that, at least she tells me, she's never had an incident like this before. So I can actually imagine, you know, I'm trying to put myself here, somebody comes out and says to you, we don't have a vet on duty, which you probably didn't believe at the moment.
No, I did.
Well, if you believed that there was no vet on duty, why didn't you just walk into your car? Why did you say anything to her? Why did you use an expletive? Why was there any need to have any communication at all with her? If there's no vet here, okay, I better get my animal too.
Well, Your Honor, when I first pulled in and I had that conversation with whoever that worked there, and I'll use that term loosely, whoever, they knew...
No vet inside by the first person that you encountered.
No, that's wrong.
No, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
John Wheat has accused vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley of injuring him after an assault in the parking lot.
Go ahead.
I explained that it was an emergency.
Just a second. The person that you were talking to, you just told me, was dealing with another client who had another animal out in the parking lot.
And I told him that it was an emergency.
Okay. Well, you know,
And
one
then
man's emergency is not. How's the cat?
Now,
Yes.
the cat's fine from that injury, but he's blind now.
Well, fine from that. Did you get the cat to a vet?
I did.
How far away?
20 minutes.
And what did they do to the cat?
Clean and sutured.
And you took him home?
I did.
And you took him the same day?
I did. Yes.
And when you went to the second vet, it was an emergency vet?
It was.
Okay. Did they have a curbside arrangement there? They did not?
No.
Had you called them if
No.
you drove? Well, you mean you drove 20 minutes not knowing if they could get to see a vet?
They're open.
How do you know?
I've been there many times.
Mr. Wheat, do you think that I think that you drove with your cat without calling first to see if they were open and a vet there when they had already told you that their vet wasn't there? Why would I get in the car? I would at least make a
The
call.
only other vet that's available right there.
Well, how do you know that that vet was available?
I've never been there where they've not.
You have any medical records for me to see of your injuries? I'd like to see
My
them.
injuries?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'd like to see them.
I have pictures of my injuries.
I'd like to see that. Miss Schilling said that you spit in her face. Is that true?
That's not true. You're not. I don't have any lower teeth. When she was in my face yelling at me, and I was yelling back at her, that's when she made that accusation.
It was more than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
It was what?
More than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
He full on spit.
Okay. Do you have a police report?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Report indicates that they were called, I assume they were called by you?
Yes.
Because they responded to their location. And the police officer observed red marks on her neck and her hair falling out of her head.
I do have pictures as well, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I pulled her off of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got all those scratches in my black eye.
I'd like to see the defendant's photographs.
Okay.
Mr. Wheat, I've read the police report, I've looked at your pictures, and can I see the pictures from the defendants? I do not have a cross complaint. Your answer, Ms. Schilling and Ms. Hensley, both indicate this was a terrible incident and you just wanted to go away.
Yes, Your Honor.
You too. You too.
I did call the police.
You too.
I called the police before they called.
You too. Mr. Wheat, you know, there are certain things that are common sense. And the common sense of it is you were upset, you were aggravated, you were angry, you were not getting what you needed. You were not told that there was no vet inside by the first person that you encountered. So
No,
you
wrong.
Well,
I wasn't told until after the second person came.
I said, no, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. I said you were not told by the first person that you encountered that there was no vet inside. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. It wasn't until Miss Hensley came outside that she told you that there was no vet inside. That is correct, ma'am.
That is correct.
Right. Now, in between that time, according to you, you sat outside for 5 minutes.
That's correct.
You sat outside for 5 minutes and you did not do what you were instructed to do by the person who was outside taking care of another animal. And they said, you have to call first. You said, you're right here. Why can't you tell them? That's what you just told me. Is that correct?
As soon as I finished with the conversation about them calling, they left me and went inside.
That's okay. You did not call. And you sat there on the cement, according to you, and waited. Then she came outside and told you there's no vet.
That's correct.
Okay. By that time, you were very angry because now you had a cat that was sick. Oh, yes, absolutely. It says so in the police report that that's what you said. You was the defendant to you. But you say you were belligerent and you were angry.
Yes.
And you honestly said that to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't act smart. If I had my animal that was bleeding to the vet and they said call, I would have called. And if I didn't call and if I waited outside and somebody came outside and said to me, the vet's not here, all I would have said is, why didn't somebody tell me that before? because I waited out here for 5 minutes, even though I didn't do what I was told to do, which was to call first and check in. Do you understand? Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Obviously, I have to stand by what she said.
I think that it was very fair. I think that she saw that he was an angry man who was upset about his cat.
They were the aggressor to me.
As soon as he was screaming and yelling, I think that that was the line.
I was holding up my hand trying to protect myself from her. She hit me, broke my glass, gave me a black eye.
The sooner that you leave, the sooner you can get your cat treatment.
I was upset at some point, I would have to say. That's true.
Pretty bad. I've been having issues like working with people coming up to the door.
Cat survived.
He is not welcome. The police did place a no trespass, and that was honestly our goal. We just didn't want him to come back.
You know, people get really upset when their pets are injured and they can't get immediate care. It's not quite as acute, probably, as when your child is sick and you take them to...